We want Obama arrested. We want Bill Clinton arrested. We want the FBI.
If they're liable.
That's what I'm getting to is prove it. You think Kash Patel is just going to go out on a hunch and just order his FBI, be like, go arrest Bill Clinton? You think those agents are just going to be like, oh yeah, right away, sir? I think those agents are going to be like, wait, what? You want us to go arrest who? Can we see the warrant? You know, she was asked this question and she's like, my loyalty will always just be with Colombia.
Please go.
Yeah, and so that's what he said. He's like, I think we need to get you out of here. Because I'm an American now, I put this country first above all.
Israel.
Right, well, and that's something that they talked about too, was dual citizenship. From now on, when I say jump, you freaking say how high.
Don't forget he's homeless now.
Yeah.
I can't know what winner.
I remember that? Yeah, I know. Wasn't that crazy?
I don't have a place to live. Bro, stop it. No shotgun found?
Yeah.
So he shot himself, then himself.
Yeah, 3 bullets to the back of the head.
Okay.
Yeah. The first one didn't do it.
Yeah.
Second one almost did it. Third one for sure.
And then
Yeah.
like that. Whew.
Yeah.
Just to make sure.
Just to make sure. I think he's Jewish.
He's Jewish.
But he's like anti-Zionist.
He's not the right Jewish.
He's not the right kind of Jewish. You and I can vote. We ultimately...
I'm not citizen.
You're not a citizen. Okay. Maybe one day. Yeah. So you can help us get people elected, man. Come on. We need you.
I'll vote for Gavin Newsom. Best of the best.
Okay, maybe you should not. All right, never mind. Retract what I just said.
Mr. Anthony Cabassa,
Yes, sir.
we have to make a deal with you, okay?
Sure.
I'm gonna treat you with a drink, okay?
Okay.
And you're gonna lead a prayer prior to starting a podcast. Do
Okay.
we have a deal?
However, is it an alcoholic drink?
Bro, this is your favorite drink. Bro.
Okay.
I just went to Sprouts.
Ah.
Bro.
Yes.
You were one of the few that influenced me starting raw milk, drinking raw milk.
Really?
Really. I was
Dude, that's
watching
amazing.
your stories like, oh, you were always drinking raw milk.
I love raw milk, man.
So,
I love
you're
it.
good
It's
with that?
expensive, right?
Bro, $18 plus tax, right? So it's up to $20.
I know. But that's like the drink of the gods, man. You know?
Right.
The nectar of the gods.
Is it mentioned in the Bible?
Raw milk, yes. Raw milk, raw honey. I mean, I don't think that the exact word raw is in there. You know, it doesn't.
There's no
say it.
pasteurization
But, right,
prior
yeah,
to
probably.
19th century.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know, by the way, that Lord Victor Rothschild has spoken to UK's parliament only twice in his lifetime?
I heard about this, yes.
The first topic was, I don't recall the first topic, but the second topic, we have to pasteurize milk. I wonder why.
Interesting? Yeah.
I wonder why.
It's interesting. I actually did look into that because I saw some posts about the pasteurization of milk. Thank you, by the way. I really appreciate that.
L'chaim.
Salud, you know? And it has to do with the fact that raw milk has so many good probiotics in it, so many natural enzymes, stuff that's good for your stomach to fight infection and all that good stuff. And when you pasteurize it, it gets rid of all the good stuff.
It basically becomes useless. It's like water.
It's water with like electrolytes.
Right.
That's all it becomes.
Yes.
But like raw milk, however, I actually went to the farm where they make this milk.
That's Fresno?
Yeah, Fresno County, California.
Is it true that they were FBI raided a few times?
I think so. Yeah, I think they were raided a couple times.
For what reason?
I think because of the raw milk, they were trying to track down if it was like some kind of flu tied to some kind of cow. Yeah, because they were trying to, that's the thing is there's like this big war against these raw farmers, the people that create like raw cheese, raw dairy products, raw yogurt, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but don't forget, in 2019, there was a guy in China that went to a market and ate a bat.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how we got COVID, right?
That's how we got it. That's what they say.
Anthony, I would love to talk to you today about a lot of stuff. Let's start with, you were covering LA riots. No King's riots, right?
Correct, yes. 1 and 2, because they had 2 of them.
Yes.
I think there's a third one planned too.
This year?
No, next year.
Next year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be on President's Day. I'm not sure. But I heard there's going to be a third one.
So if we look through the camera lens and we zoom in, it looks like lots of people, thousands of people, and all LA was under those riots and protests, right? But if you zoom out a little bit, you kind of realize that not like 10,000 people were attending. Not
Right.
all LA was under those protests. You were there. Tell me, how did it look like for real?
Yeah. I mean, so I believe that the story is that the No Kings Day is some of the most successful protests because it's worldwide, which is interesting because it's like, well, America was literally founded on we don't want any kings, right? That's how it was founded. But there's this preconceived notion that Trump is kind of going that way. First, they said he wanted to become like a fascist dictator. Now they're kind of saying, hey, maybe a king is something that we can sell more to people. He's trying to become a king, which is kind of crazy to me.
You have to be pretty stupid to believe that.
Yes, you do. I truly believe that. Yeah.
You have to,
and unfortunately, there's people that believe it.
You have to convert this country, republic, into kingdom.
Yeah.
How is it possible?
I know. You have to get rid of basically everything. And I just don't think enough. I don't think anyone would be on board with that. I don't think even, let's just say for the sake of an argument that Trump actually wanted to do that, I think even the military generals would be like, you're crazy, man. We're getting rid of you.
So I believe when people say he's about to stay for the third term, comes from his tweets when he says Trump 2028.
Right, yeah.
But what people don't understand is he has lots of children that have the same last name.
Trump.
So it's not Donald Trump. It's maybe Junior. It's maybe Eric. Maybe other.
Yeah. And the fact that he's come on record saying he has no intentions on planning it.
But it's impossible constitutionally.
Right. According to Steve Bannon, which is like a big right-wing podcaster, he says there's like ways to get around it or something. I don't know. I haven't investigated that. I'm like, this doesn't sound correct. But back to the protests, right? So yeah, there were thousands of people there. I've been covering protests in Los Angeles since 2017, 2018. And it could be any kind of protest. I've been doing right-wing protests, left-wing protests. It doesn't matter to me if it's a protest. What I like to cover is I like to know the why. That's the whole purpose of my journalism and journalism is really that. You show up and you're like, what happened here and why? You know, you want to get to understanding the answers to these questions that a lot of people have. Why did this happen? Whether it's a shooting, whether it's open borders, whether it's a congressman got, fired or whatever, you want to, well, what happened here, right? And so that's the whole intention of journalism. And so with me, I like to just head down there because I'm so close, I live here. And I like to find out my why. And the reason for it is because, studies show, and this is something that we've been talking about for so many years, is people have lost trust in the mainstream media. People don't trust the media anymore because it turns out that they're no longer in the business of telling the truth. They're in the business of telling their truth. There's a narrative behind it. There's a bias. And so enter the rise of independent journalists or podcasts, just like this one, where people are more interested in hearing a podcast like this or news from a journalist myself because there's no incentive for me to go and lie to you. There is for a media company because every click is money for them. Every video view is money for them. Every lie sold, every narrative generates more and more revenue for them.
But there are influencers that are paid by other companies.
Sure, yeah.
Government.
Donors, sponsors, they're in bed with politicians. Politician says, hey, we got to run this narrative. It doesn't matter if it's true, it's right or wrong. You got to spin it somehow, so sometimes it's in the phrasing, hey, we didn't really actually say this. We just kind of alluded to it. We left the sentence open-ended so that you can draw that deduction. And so they know what they're doing. And even, if you want to go as far back as the media being in bed with the CIA, or other three-letter agencies to, again, create division, sow division, to fool people, etc. And so with this No Kings, I wanted, well, what's really going on? I want to know what's really happening because even the political right, which is a lot of my audience, identify more conservative myself. So I've garnered a lot of support for Trump supporters and Republicans and more conservative leaning people. Even they have narratives about what they think is actually happening with this. And it has become unfortunate that even with some right-wing podcasting, there have been narratives that have been told. I think one of the more famous ones is probably like InfoWars with Alex Jones, where he says a lot of things, and then sometimes it's like, that wasn't necessarily true. And I think it's because Alex Jones, who's the founder of InfoWars, he grew so big that eventually he started doing kind of what the corporate media does. They start taking in sponsors. They need to make money. They've got a website that now generates money every time there's a click. So I think they generate these headlines that in some cases might be, again, misleading. And it's done on purpose, And so you have smaller people like myself where I don't have a website like that, and I don't have any sponsors. There's no one funding my show every month or telling me, hey, you have to go out and do this. It's really just on me. And my discernment in what I report is, just comes from God. Is I know I shouldn't be lying. I know I shouldn't be misleading people, and I know I shouldn't be doing things just for money. And so and I think people see that, and so they support my work. And so they support my work too, because I go out and I cover things like these protests. They want to know too. It's like, hey, I don't want to be lied by the right or the left. I just want to know the truth. And so what's unique in my work is that most of the time it's not me talking into the camera. I don't say, hey, this is what's happening. What I do is I shoot the video, and then I put a small description in the caption of what the video shows. And then I let people decide in the comments, what do you think about this?
This is basically journalism 101.
Right.
Not your opinion, but the facts.
Exactly.
He hit him. This is the footage. You do the rest.
Exactly. So like one example of the way this could be misconstrued or misled is there are some journalists out there, we've had the anti-ICE protests. And so people show up and they're at an anti-ICE protest, but the protest is not necessarily called anti-ICE. They're just like, we're here to protest authority. We're here to protest these raids that are happening in our community. You don't know why people are showing up. Maybe they're locals. Maybe they saw something and they're like, hey, what's going on over there, right? They get closer, etc. You start interviewing them. Is it fair of me to say that this person is here to protest ICE? Well, no, because I don't know until I ask them. And so what some journalists will do is they'll say, communists have showed up to protest the ICE raids. Is everyone there a communist?
Right.
No. Maybe some of them agree with some communist ideology. There's this, I think we talked about this last time on your podcast. There's this known group called Antifa, the anti-fascists, right? Which act more like a fascist than, the people that they claim that they're fighting. And so sometimes they are there. You can kind of tell who they are because they dress in all black. They cover their faces, and they usually have Antifa flags. Well, I can't say that I'm at an Antifa protest if not everyone there is Antifa. So you have some journalists say Antifa are fighting police, etc. Well, it's not necessarily accurate. So I just say protesters. People here protesting, that's it. Now, sometimes the political right gets upset with me because you're like, these aren't protesters. These are rioters. These are communists. These are Antifa. You can call it whatever you want. Because again, I'm just showing you the video. If I call them all Antifa, you're going to have this notion in your mind that everyone here is an Antifa member. And so I don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? And so
because it's not true.
Because it's not true. Exactly. And so you're right. That's basically a perfect description. I show up and I show them, and then I put it in the caption, here's what really happened. And I think that's important because there is a level of conditioning that you give your audience members. And if you are mislabeling or misleading, I think it can lead to other things. I think, it can be dangerous because then you kind of also as a journalist or as a reporter, you start noticing, hey, every time I do this or I use this word in a headline,
I get this stuff.
I get more feedback. and I get more hate comments, or I get more people fighting in the comments,
Right.
And so I don't want to, that's not my purpose as a journalist. And really it's because there's no incentive in that. There's no incentive for me to do that. Now, if I ran a news company and the only place people could comment on a story is a news article, that every time people click on the news article, I make money because of all the ads placed on my article, then maybe I'd have an incentive of, I want people to not only come onto this article, but I want them to start fighting in the comments, because every comment is X amount of money.
Right. Refreshing the page.
Right. And so I think that and again, that's why I'm saying, like, let's say, you start that website and you notice that if you stay objective, you're only making $20 per article. But if you change the headlines and you get people to comment more, now I'm making $300 an article. Well, your incentive is to make more money. Let's replicate, because you know this, right? As a podcaster, you look at your analytics and what works, what doesn't work. Did this person do well? Maybe we don't have this person back. Did this person do well? They were controversial. Maybe I didn't like what they had to say, but the people loved it.
But the views are the views.
But the views are the views, exactly. And so with these protests, just, there's a lot of stuff that I was able to debunk. One of the biggest myths out there is that these protesters are all getting paid. And that's something that I hear from my audience a lot is, oh, don't these people work? Don't they have jobs? And I'm like, well, that's another misconception, is people think that anytime anyone comes out there to protest, or anytime that they're out there to do anything, that they're getting paid. And I talk to these people, the protesters, and I say, what brought you out here today? And one of the questions I try to ask all the time is, what do you do for work? Because I already know what my audience is going to say. They're going to go, they're paid protesters. But a lot of these people tell me, I'm a nurse, I'm a teacher, I'm so-and-so, I work for the city, I do this or that. And so to me, when people tell me, oh, these are all paid protesters, I'm like, well, you weren't there. I was there. How can you tell me, if I'm the one having conversation with these people and I know that they're working? Now, that's not to say that maybe they're not making extra income, but to say that all of them are getting paid.
If a few thousand people showed up, you can't pay a few thousand people.
There's no way.
There's no way.
It's not self-sustaining. And so now you could maybe make the argument, and this is something that I actually just recently made the claim to, is that the left, just like the right, has political parties and branches that go off of that. And what I mean by that is, like, for example, the official Republican Party in California is the California GOP. And then you've got the California RNC, the Republican National Committee. Those are the two official Republican parties. But then you also have, like, county chapters, then you have city chapters of those, right? So you have, like, the Los Angeles GOP, the Orange County GOP, the San Bernardino GOP. But then from that, you also have, like, the Young Republican Club, which is affiliated to the California GOP, but it's its own separate entity. And then you have the Women's Federated GOP. And then you have, now you can get, like, hyper local and be like, we're the Anaheim, Republicans,
And they live on donations?
And right. And so that's what I was getting to, was a lot of these people rely on donations. So a lot of it is membership fee, right? So in order to become part of this GOP, you have to be properly vetted. You have to be over the age of 18. You have to be a registered Republican, and you have to pay either a yearly or a monthly fee. So that's how you start gathering all this money to be able to do anything. Because what's the point of belonging to anything if you guys aren't doing anything? And so those fees go to throwing together a monthly event, et cetera, et cetera. And so the left has exactly the same thing. They have the official party at the state level, then they have the county level official party, but then they also have, like, DSA, which is one of the biggest factions out there that's putting together these protests and helping. That's the Democratic Socialists of America.
Okay.
And so they're tied in with the Democrats. Then you've got, like, the PSA or the PSL, which is the Party of Socialism and Liberation, which is another Democrat club.
Socialism and liberation.
Oxymoron, right?
Right.
Yeah, socialism means liberation, according to these people.
Guys, I'm from the USSR. There is no liberation in socialism. None.
Exactly. But they believe it because they never lived through it.
Right.
And this is like another thing too that people don't understand sometimes on the right is they say if they love socialism so much, well then why don't they just move to Russia? Why don't they move to Venezuela? Why don't they move to Cuba? But what people don't understand, and this is something that I've done kind of as a spin-off to not just my journalism in my work, but I created a book club. And so every month we would read a book and then we would meet online virtually through Zoom or YouTube and we would go through what the book was about. And we did this for, I want to say like close to a year, a little bit more. We just put a pause on it. I'm hoping to bring it back. But I've just got so many projects going on right now, including bringing back my podcast, which I'll have you on hopefully next month, January. So you heard it here first. I haven't announced it anywhere, but exclusive.
We're going to have raw milk?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, we're going to have a refrigerator with raw milk for everybody. And so what I was getting to was in these books, we learned that not just what communism is, how it started, its founders, and its purpose. And when you start to understand the purpose of communism and socialism, it's not about making one country communist and then telling the world, hey, if you guys want communism, you're more than welcome to come here. Yeah. Communism is a virus, and it seeks to spread to every inch and corner of the world.
And with it always comes bloodbath.
Always. Anywhere communism is, there's bloodbath. And so that's what a lot of people don't understand. And that's why, again, it's important to go out there and talk to these people and tell them, why socialism? Why this? Why that? And unfortunately, I think that a lot of these college kids have been swindled to the idea of socialism because, again, it sounds good in theory. It's hey, our cost of living is going to go down. Our groceries are going to go down. Healthcare is going to be free because everyone's going to be paying high taxes in order to create the society. If anything, we can look at some of these socialist ideas and see already how it's gone wrong. One of the biggest ones is the SNAP benefits. So in America, you know what that is, right? It's basically these food stamps. Right. And we're just now finding out, and I don't know if you saw the videos, I don't know if you remember that, when the government shut down just recently for 40-something days, one of the biggest arguments the Democrats had was that millions of Americans were going to suffer because they didn't have food stamps, the SNAP benefits. And then people started going on TikTok and uploading videos of them saying, I'm one of those SNAP recipients. And what was interesting to me, which is so fascinating to me, is if you are one of those people and you're genuinely afraid, then maybe your video message should be, this is what I expected to see. A single mom of 3 whose husband probably passed or is really sick and she has to take care of him and she works 2 jobs, saying, if I don't have this, my family doesn't survive. We're going to have to sell our home.
Right.
And similar messages to that is what I expected to see because, A, it's what we would think as taxpayers, that's who our money is going towards to. Right? Is the people that, hey, I have a family member who's ill, I'm poor, I lost my job, I lost my business during the pandemic, and we've been on benefits ever since, etc. And unfortunately, what we saw was the opposite. We saw thousands of users taking to TikTok, very entitled, a lot of them very obese, very overweight. Not starving, the opposite of what you would think, right? And a lot of them even had the message of, I collect it fraudulently. Why should I have to go back to work? And there was videos of guys saying, I shouldn't have to pay for my food. You, the taxpayer, should have to pay for my food. It's not my responsibility. It's your responsibility as a taxpayer to pay for my food. If you think I'm about to start working, you've got something else coming. Okay. And there was videos of people, because you can call in kind of like your bank, you can call your bank and you go through the automated process and it tells you how much is in your checking account. Well, the SNAP, it's exactly the same. You can call and see how much is in your account before you go and swipe the card. There were people that had $25,000, $20,000, $15,000
On that SNAP card?
on the SNAP card.
$20,000.
Yeah. Isn't that insane? And you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, how did you would think that it would be regulated, right? So like,
Right.
let's say, you qualified and I've never gone through the process. I think maybe there was one time when I was in the military where we applied, and I think but my wife did that. And honestly, I don't remember much of how it worked. But we haven't been on it, I think, since I left the military. And we're definitely not on it now. And that's the thing is, it's not that I'm against it, right? I think that when your fellow American falls on hard times,
Right,
hey,
right.
of course, yeah, here, you got kids, here you go,
Sure.
et cetera. But what we saw was, again, the opposite, and people were calling in that this. Then you're watching all these obese people, and then you see what they're buying, and they're like, "This is what I normally buy on a month, right?" And it's like sodas, candy, all these things, and you're like, "Whoa, wait a minute! Like, there's something wrong here, you know?" And then it turns out this is actually something I posted just yesterday, because the Trump administration is looking to actually cease SNAP benefits. I don't know if you saw this report.
For illegals.
Well, not just illegals, but for blue states, because I believe her name is Brooke Rollins. I think she's the Secretary of Agriculture. What she said was they're trying to audit SNAP because they're finding that a lot of people have been applying at multiple states and receiving in multiple states. And there's people that should have been disqualified. There's people that are making enough income where they no longer qualify, but somehow they still get it. So they're like, hey, let's get an audit, because this is millions of dollars a year we're spending on SNAP
And
benefits.
how can you accumulate $20,000 on the card?
Exactly. And so as a taxpayer, and I think if you're an honest person, you want the government to conduct regular audits to make sure, hey, if a person died or if a person no longer qualifies, then let's get them off, and then let's make sure we're not overtaxing people to continue to provide. Then we're learning that there's like 40 million people on SNAP benefits, and you're like, that's a lot of people.
Every
40 million.
ninth American, right?
I think so. I think that's what the math is, yeah. And you're like, wait a minute, like 1 in 8, 1 in 9 is receiving that? Like, that's how many poor people we have, or that's how many? That doesn't sound right. And so what the Secretary of Agriculture said was, what we are learning is that there's a lot of fraud, there's a lot of abuse. The Biden administration increased SNAP benefits to specific areas by 40% right before the election. And they were doing it in hopes of people noticing, man, I'm getting a lot more money under Biden. I need to keep voting for this guy.
Yeah.
So obviously that's, to me, that's criminal. Right before an election, you're upping the benefit of people that rely on the government, and they're now seeing a 40% increase on their
Kind
money.
of a bribery, but at the same time, but you've got every candidate says, I'm going to do this, and that is going to be amazing during my four-year term. But once they get in the government, it's like, nope,
Yeah.
nope.
Exactly. And so what she said was that when they requested the data of all SNAP recipients across every state, all 50 states, that only, and this is, according, and sure, do your research, et cetera, that only Republican states, all 29 Republican states turned over their data. And what they found immediately was that they were able to disqualify 800,000 people. Immediately, because they're like, oh, wow, we see the errors here. That's not like, hey, this is an ongoing investigation, and there might be a couple million more once we get to the nitty gritty. Because I think when you get the data, and immediately you're able to determine 800,000 people aren't eligible, it's probably because like, oh wow, we missed that this person died, or we missed that this person moved, or we missed easy things that you can like, oh wow, that's an automatic. But then you got to get to like the person that like they're making $10 more over. We're going to have to reevaluate this. That's like the super hyper local, right? Is maybe this person, should they qualify? Should they not? But for me, it's alarming that right off the bat, when the data was turned over from 29 states, that 800,000 were kicked off the program. I'm like, dude, that's almost 1 million that they were able to, save right away. And so what they're saying is if the Democrat states, the blue states, are not willing to turn over their data, then and so we can audit the program that we fund, then why would we continue to provide to these states? And so there's a lot of uproar right now online on, is this fair? And so again, this is where I go back into like journalism, right? It's not on me to tell people, come on, guys, this is really obvious. Of course, stop the benefits, because I don't know everybody in those states. I don't know why the reason is that these states are not doing it. I don't know if some of them have. I don't know if the person is being honest. I don't know. So I just present the information, and then I usually leave it with an open-ended question. What do you guys think about this story? What do you think about the information I just presented to you? Is this good? Is this bad? Why or why not? And make sure you hit that follow button for more breaking news, or more news that you might be interested in. And what I found is that a lot of people on the left and the right follow me because of that, because I'm not here to lecture you on, you guys are stupid for not wanting this, or you are wrong for this. I present the information, and then I let people decide in the comments. Now, that has also, that's a good benefit for me, because it's like, hey, I noticed that ever since I started being very objective in my reporting, that I now have more people on both political spectrums following me. And I've also noticed that I'm getting more comments. Why? Because I'm getting more liberals that maybe are a little bit more emotional, that kind of tend to react to things like more emotionally and sympathetically. They're like, oh, this is wrong. I can't believe he's going to do this, et cetera, et cetera. But then people just kind of fight in the comments, But that's not me saying I need to continue to be objective because I want that. It was just kind of like a side effect, It just happened naturally. So I'm not going to change back to like only being more conservative, because to me that's just not journalism.
Yeah, but an American is an American. It doesn't matter whether he's on the left or on the right, whether he's a communist or he's a Republican. American is American, right?
Yeah.
So the problem with socialism is what I see. A lot of people got mad with the New York mayor, and Mamdani won, and he's now the mayor of New York. And a lot of people were upset, and a lot of people cheered on the right when Trump said maybe we're gonna do something, when maybe we're gonna strip him of his citizenship and etc. So he's not going to be able to qualify for this election.
Right.
But if citizens of New York, 51% want that guy as their next mayor, why not?
Right.
Even if he's communist.
I completely agree with that rationale, actually. I completely agree with it. A lot of people are upset that the system that we have in place allows for a communist to be elected. I'm not upset about it. I think that we have the system that we have, and you should fight harder for what you really want. And what I mean by that is, if you really didn't want a communist elected, then you need to mobilize. And the problem is, even when Trump said what he said about, we're going to deport this guy, what I've come to realize, and it's not, I'm not happy in reporting this, is that the political right doesn't like activism. They don't like doing.
Right. Correct.
They like someone to do it on their behalf. They're like, we elected Trump to do this on my behalf. If we don't like communism, we want him to do something about it as a president. We want him to use all legal power. Now, I can understand, right? Like, we can't go out and deport illegal immigrants. So obviously we have a federal system in place, right, that allows this. I'm not telling every person that doesn't want illegal immigrants living in America, hey, you should go out there and do this yourself. But there are things within our control. And one of those things are elections. And what I see is that, you know, there are people that were out there in New York City that were saying, we've got to do something about this. We've got to get it together. But when they were out there knocking on doors and doing the work, not a lot of Republicans showed up. And that's true of any state. That is true of really almost any election. It's really hard to get Republicans to do the work needed to win. Even just to donate money, you know. I've worked for campaigns, so that's why, you know, I'm not just saying it just to say it, you know, like, oh, Anthony doesn't know what he's talking about. I've helped Republicans campaigns, and I know the data because I entered the data myself. I know how many volunteers we would get on average. I know in a district, you know, I worked for a campaign in a district where we had, what was it, 200 to 300,000 registered Republicans. And on any given Saturday for any race, we would maybe have 10 to 20 Republicans show up to do the work, to go knock on doors and stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, if we even got 0.5% of registered Republicans in this district, not in the nation, not in the entire California, just in this district, in this city even, then we would always win, because we would outpace our Democrats counterparts or whoever the political opponent is, and we would just win. If you look at like the voting trends, if you look at how many Republicans turn out to vote by county, it's even worse.
Especially here in California. A lot of registered Republicans.
California. We have the most registered Republicans than any other state in the nation. Now, there is an argument to be had in which Democrats outnumber us 2-1, in which, you know, Democrats, I think they have like 9 million registered voters compared to Republicans that have about, I think we just reached about 5 million, a little bit over 5 million in this last election, registered Republicans. But the thing that helps Republicans in California is that we have a lot of independent voters, and those are usually the ones you want to come after, are the independent voters, are the people that are like, well, I don't necessarily align left or right, but you need to sell me a good message and tell me why I need to vote for you. And the problem is we tend to not reach those people because we already have a hard time reaching Republicans to do their job. It's even harder to come after the independents. And so you kind of just rely more on like digital ads to target the independents.
Yeah, but brother, let's take New York mayoral race as an example. Mamdani, Cuomo, Eric Adams. That's it.
And so basically, there was technically that Republican Curtis Sliwa that like, yeah, no one really heard.
So basically, Mamdani or Cuomo. Really?
Yeah. And Cuomo, you got to remember his history.
Right.
The guy was literally outed because he was allegedly, you know, sexual harassment.
He looks like the head of the mob. Literally.
Yeah. Hey, as an Italian, you know, that's racist, man.
Hey, Tony.
Yeah. Well, what are we all? Yeah. That's why my name is Tony. Yeah. No, I agree. You know, the options in New York City, and I talked to some New Yorkers, you know, online. Obviously, I wasn't necessarily there, but I did talk, and they're like, dude, the options were terrible.
Terrible.
The Republican, you know, is just no known guy. And the option really for Republicans was Cuomo. And I'm like, dude, we hated this guy. This is a guy that wrote a headline, "We don't want Republicans in New York City," back in like 2014. So for over a decade, Cuomo's whole spiel has been, I hate Republicans. Why would you think Republicans will get out and vote for Cuomo, you know?
But how about COVID era?
Oh, yes.
He was the governor.
Which was so insane to me because on the day of the election is the day he decided to apologize for the way he handled COVID. And remember, I don't know if you remember, on the day of, he kind of came out, I don't know if it was a commercial, but he made a video apologizing for killing people, for putting elderly people into nursing homes, which basically guaranteed their death.
Apologized.
On the day of election.
Okay.
It's like, why wouldn't you do this a year out? Why wouldn't you do this before you even announced you're running for governor?
Because it's not sincere.
Exactly. And that's what I think that Republicans read. Exactly. You're absolutely right. I think people knew, like, dude, you're saying it because you want me to get out of my couch and go vote. On the flip side, however, and I understand, and this is another fault of Republicans, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily a bad fault, is we're very convicted by our morals and our values. And if the options are worse or far worse, in this case in New York City, a lot of Republicans don't feel like that's a good argument. I'm not going to vote for the lesser of two evils. The problem with that logic is that, unfortunately, that's every election. Every election is going to be between worse or far worse. You might get a good candidate, but there's still going to be a lot of negatives regarding this candidate, right? You're not going to get, and here's what I mean by that is, I'm not trying to say that Joe Biden or I'm sorry, Kamala Harris and Trump were worse and far worse, but a lot of Republicans, believe it or not, are not that fond of Trump. They don't like that he kind of
especially
shook
right now.
things around. Especially right now, yeah. I mean, there was even prominent conservatives and Republicans that just outright said, "I'm not voting for the guy," and they didn't. One of them is, I don't know if you know who Nick Fuentes is.
Of course.
Yeah. So Nick Fuentes, he was a strong advocate of, I'm not voting, because he's changed. He's not saying the things we need him to say, and I don't think he's going to follow through. And fast forward to today, Donald Trump took office beginning of the year, January 20th, and a lot of Republicans feel that, even Republicans that voted for him.
Right.
And the thing is, it's not like I get he's had less than a year, but he has the experience. He was president before. He knows how to get things done. And I think that the frustration for Republicans and conservatives comes in, he says a lot, but then sometimes it doesn't follow through. A lot of people feel very disappointed in his handling of immigration, which I think this week it took a turn, because like he's been announcing some pretty far-fetched ideas on immigration, saying he's banning immigration from all third world countries. Just yesterday, they issued a statement from USCIS, which is the United States Customs and Immigration Services, saying that they're even people that are here from those 19 countries and they've already passed their test to become U.S. citizens, those people will not become Americans. They're not going to do the ceremony to initiate them as Americans. Everything's on halt right now, which is unprecedented. But it does go back into some of the campaign promises that he made, was we need to fix immigration. And, there's a lot of people that feel upset that there's immigrants that pass the test. But this is something that Donald Trump actually talked about, was even the test is broken, because you have people out there that are selling the test so that you only study the questions and you get enough right so that you can just pass the test. And there's even this very viral video of a Colombian woman. I don't know if you've seen it. She's got tattoos all over her face, and she's on a podcast. And the podcaster, I think it was a Whatever podcast. I don't know if you've heard of that one. But the host, the idea, I think, of the show is you've got like a Christian moderator, and then you've got like the host, and it's usually like a big table.
OnlyFans.
All the OnlyFans girls, right? And then like the whole idea is, I guess, they berate them and make fun of them for being OnlyFans. I don't think I've ever watched a full show. I always see the clips.
Right.
But this particular clip brought up a pretty good argument, in that the girl talking was, I don't know if she was OnlyFans. I'm not sure, to be honest. But the context of the video was that she was born in Colombia and she came to America and became a U.S. citizen. And I think she was a dual citizen, I think. But the host asked her, if America ever went to war with Colombia, what country would you root for? Ooh. And she said, I would root for Colombia, because that's who I am. I'm Colombian. I was born there. That's who I am. And you know what, now that I'm thinking, I don't even know if she was born there. I think she's just Colombian, like her parents maybe. But the point still stands, in that, she was asked this question and she's like, my loyalty will always just be with Colombia.
Please go.
Yeah, and so that's what he said. He's like, I think we need to get you out of here. And she's like, no, it's my right. I have freedom of speech. But right. But what's interesting is that in the oath, in the naturalization, when the oath that you read off to become a U.S. citizen, in it says that you basically, don't quote me, but it basically alludes to, I hereby am a U.S. citizen, and I now refute any other foreign country. I refute any allegiance, any oath, you're basically saying, because I'm an American now, I put this country first above all.
Israel.
Right. Well, and that's something that they talked about too, was dual citizenship. You've got this, ironically, this senator from Ohio who was born in Colombia, renounced his Colombian citizenship, and he's trying to introduce legislation that no American, whether you want to seek political office or not, just if you're a regular American and you want an American citizenship, you can no longer become a dual citizen. And you can never have dual citizenship, ever.
Bro, my country, Lithuania, is a very small country, up to 3 million people population. We can't have dual citizenship.
Really?
Yes, we can't. Up to 18 years old, you can, but after you're 18, you have to choose.
You have to choose. Interesting. I did not know that. Okay. Which I'll be very, like, you know, this is one of those things where, again, I presented the information online and I let people, they're like, so, you know, I had people message me, I had people text me, like, is this real? I'm like, yeah, this senator is going to introduce that legislation. Now, I was born in the United States. I don't have dual citizenship anywhere. My mom is from Mexico. I want to say she doesn't have dual citizenship. To be honest, I haven't even asked her. But I know she loves this country, and I think that if she had to choose, she'd be like, oh, of course, the United States. You know, this is the country that gave me everything, you know? And she's worked so hard here. I don't think she would want to give up her U.S. citizenship status. But this is one of those things that just really it doesn't mean anything to me, because I have zero plans on dual citizenship. Now, there are some people that say the reason I have dual citizenship is because my family goes back to Mexico, or it goes back to Italy, or it goes back to X country so long that we have property there. And the only way to continue to hold that property that was given to me by my family is if I have dual citizenship. I would look to lose all of that if that was the case. And, you know, whether it's passive income or if they just keep the property or they vacation there, that's up to them, right? Et cetera. So it's interesting. It's interesting, the fact that it was a Colombian immigrant that is introducing this legislation. And to me, it just makes sense. I mean, if in your small country of 3 million, they already do that, there's got to be some logic behind it. I also think that there is, I just strongly believe in that. Your allegiance should be to just one country. I understand the economic side. You know, there's a lot of people that are very wealthy that I know that hold multiple citizenships for economic purposes. They're like, I have to
4 passports,
four passports, etc. And what they do is they claim residency in these countries so they don't have to pay like a zero income tax, because, like, hey, by law in America, I'm able to not have to pay income tax because I'm a citizen of this remote country or whatever. And to that, I would just say, you know, is in that case, we just need to fix the economic problems that we have in America. You know, some of the incentives that I've seen, not hypotheticals, but that I've actually seen is, first of all, for the income tax problem, if you want to call it that, Donald Trump has already talked about this, that he's looking to abolish the income tax. Because
do you believe him?
Do I believe him?
Yeah, that he's going to do it?
You know, and I know that this is a problem with Republicans, is like, he keeps saying this, but when is it going to happen? I think that people like Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, and Donald Trump, they have good ideas. And if it were up to them alone, they would execute them. I think that if it were up to only Donald Trump, me personally, I do believe he would abolish it today. He would sign an executive order saying no more income tax. But there's a judicial process to everything. It's not just him. It has to go through Congress. So now you've got to convince 450 people to come along with that. Half of those people are Democrat, or about half of those people. You think they're going to, and a lot of them are going towards socialism. You think they're going to want to abolish income tax? Nobody would. Then you got to convince Republicans. A lot of these Republicans are in moderate seats, meaning they could lose next election if they vote the wrong way. So a lot of them are going to be loyal to their people, which, again, I'm not against. I'm not against moderate Republicans that say, if I don't vote the way my people want to, or if I don't give the left in my district a little bit, I'm not going to get voted in next time. And I can't vote for some of the other things that benefit all Americans, right? So I just don't, I think there's checks and balances to everything. And I think that if it were up to Donald Trump, there was a lot of things that he would say and that he's promised that would already be law if it were up to him. So your question is, do I believe him? I do believe him. I just don't know if it's going to happen because of this process.
Bro, Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, 4 of them gaslit people that were wanting to get the Epstein files. Are you still talking about the Epstein files? There are no Epstein files. There are no this, and that.
Yeah.
What was that all about? I believe Republicans got mad at Trump because of this, because he gaslit those people that believed in him.
So it's a very unique scenario here, and this is one of the things where I was talking about, that Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and this is a thing that I've had to remind my audience of is when you have a podcast, Dan Bongino had a podcast, Kash Patel was on podcasts, etc. You can say whatever you want. And this is what I mean by sometimes there's a danger to these podcasters that kind of behave in the same way of the mainstream media. They say things because they know it draws clicks and views. It's really easy for us to sit here because we're not liable to anyone. You're independent. I'm independent. We can say whatever we want right now. Anything. We can tell the audience, hey, I actually have the Epstein files in my car. You want me to bring them in? But you got to tune in. You got to subscribe to this guy's Patreon, and that's the only way you'll see it. And people would probably be like, I'm subscribing right now because I trust Anthony and I trust Apollo. I want to get this done, right? And so with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, for years, that's what they were talking about was the Epstein files, the Epstein files, the Epstein files. And the scenario that they found themselves in is that they went from podcasters to now they're in official federal positions. And it goes back to the system. It's really easy as a podcaster to say this Epstein file is gonna destroy the world as we know it, because in saying that it attracts people. You make sure your producer clips it and it goes viral because it gets people talking. Dude, did you see he said the whole world's government
Kash Patel
is gonna
said
collapse.
the day one I will release it.
Because he wanted the job, of course. And they know the base. They know the base wants it. They crave it. And so now they find themselves in these positions. And guess what? It's great to say these things, but can you prove these things? You have to be able to prove it. Because if you're going to come after people criminally, and not just any people, this isn't like, hey, we got some guy in Costa Rica who was flying, he was Epstein's private. We're going to come after this guy. Probably people won't care about that. What do people care about? They care about the celebrities, the politicians, foreign diplomats, etc. We want these people arrested. We want Obama arrested. We want Bill Clinton arrested. We want the FBI.
If they're liable.
That's what I'm getting to is prove it.
Right.
You think Kash Patel is just going to go out on a hunch and just order his FBI, be like, go arrest Bill Clinton? You think those agents are just going to be like, oh yeah, right away, sir? I think those agents are going to be like, wait, what? You want us to go arrest who? Can we see the warrant? Can we see the judge that signed off on it? You can't just tell us to do things. We're going after someone high profile. You better be damn sure that you know. And so I think that the problem that a lot of people have is they don't understand that process. They don't understand that when you are a federal employee or federally appointed, the implications it has that you better be damn sure that what you're doing, that's going to be taken into a court of law. You have to run every scenario. And then you got to understand that the people that are implicated, you think Bill Clinton went his entire career not thinking of like, what happens if I get caught? What dirt do I have on people to make sure that even if I'm caught, I don't get put away?
Arrest all of them.
Arrest everybody, right? Right, no.
Left, right, center, who cares?
Sure. The problem with that is that eventually the pendulum will swing the other way. And if Republicans are going off of loose information and they end up losing in court because the judge says there's not enough evidence here to point to anything. Okay, he was on the Epstein Island. Do you have any proof of any wrongdoing? And what we've got to remember too is these files have existed since the first Trump administration. We went through 4 years of a Biden administration. I don't see a scenario where the Democrats just left the files intact. I don't see a scenario where Joe Biden or whoever else, the Clintons, whoever else had political power, didn't say. Just think about it like this, man. 2023, Donald Trump announces he's running for president. 2022, 2023, and he swears that once in office, he's going to release the Epstein files and come after every corrupt person ever. You're telling me that the Biden administration, knowing and hearing that information, just sat around the Oval Office, like just biting his fingernails, like, damn, bro, this guy's going to...
Waiting?
They're not waiting around, bro. They're ordering people get rid of the evidence.
But what you're saying is you think there are only people on the left that are in the Epstein files?
Oh, for sure. I think that there's people
only on the left.
Oh, no, not only.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear that part. No, definitely not only on the left. I think that there's people on the left and the right. And that's why a lot of people think that that's why Donald Trump ultimately, so it's been months, but they are finally releasing them. So I think the order, Thomas Massie, that became like a whole spiel and debacle with the Trump administration. Trump promising that he's going to primary Thomas Massie making sure that his bill got passed to release the Epstein files. It was passed unanimously. I think there was one person that voted no for it, and it was a Republican. But it's passed. It's signed. They're going to be released. They've got up to 30 days from the moment it was signed to release the files. So the files are coming. They're coming this month. But Speaker Johnson and the FBI have already said that there's going to be redacted files. And so the problem is going to be and the problem that people are going to run into is people are thinking the files are finally going to be released. Now we're going to be able to read for ourselves these heinous acts that these people committed. And if there's even, let's say there's 30,000 files. If there's 100 pages that are redacted, but the rest of it is unredacted, and there's nothing really there in the 29,500, what do you think people are going to assume of the redacted files? They're going to be like, the real stuff is in the redactions. Right. So
you remember the binders?
I remember the binders, yeah.
Photo op? What was that?
Photo op, yeah.
Exactly. Why influencers from TikTok and X were invited to the White House? So were presented with those binders and taking those pictures. That's it.
Yeah.
Subscribe to my channel. We're going to read through the Epstein files.
Exactly, yeah.
Any new information? Nope.
Nothing. Yeah.
They released the JFK files. How many pages? 300,000 pages?
Yeah.
So who killed the JFK? Lee Harvey Oswald?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really? So no new information in those 300,000 pages?
Yeah.
That's BS.
Yeah. No, I know. I get it. Yeah. And so here's the thing is, it's not just about releasing the files. What people need to understand is if there's, the files are just evidence. It's evidence that our three-letter agencies collected.
Right.
It doesn't mean that whatever's on the paper is real. It doesn't mean, hey, there's got to be now a prosecutor has to put the evidence together, connect the dots. Then they have to start investigating. They're gonna, hey, we have you on a file. What was this about? Oh, it was nothing. Okay, now we got to cross that out. A prosecutor has to come and look at these files and say, is there any wrongdoing here? So that's the problem is all these files are going to be released, but even if there's any wrongdoing, it's going to be hard to connect all those dots. And then you got to find someone that's going to prosecute. You got to find a team that says, we've put all the pieces together and now we know who the real killer is. Because there's really, I wouldn't say there's really no sense, but it doesn't matter if you and I get the files. What do we know about the law? What do we know about what's prosecutable or not? Would you be able to look at 300,000 pages? First of all, how long would it take you to
go run through ChatGPT? But Pam Bondi said that she has
truckloads, yeah,
of video footage.
That's what she said.
Of kids being raped.
Mm-hmm.
So there are people. Tell me who those people are. At least one person. So I know he may not be prosecuted, but I have to know. Person X is a pedophile. And this, we have the proof of him raping X amount of kids.
Yeah.
If that actor, that influencer, that politician raped a child in that video and you have proof, before you prosecute, tell me this is real.
Yeah.
We have to know it. And she said herself to a nanny, right, in a cafe, that she has thousands of hours, something like that, with the child being molested on videos.
Yeah. But you know, I did want to tell
no
your
person identified.
Right. I did want to tell your audience one thing. So I actually know the entire backstory of the influencers with the files, because I actually have a few friends that were given the files. So this is what they told me, and I have no reason not to doubt them, because I've not grew up with them, but I've been in the journalist side of things with them for many, many years before they even got to the positions that they were at.
So these were Cernovich, Liz Wheeler, Libs of TikTok. Who else?
You had DC Drano.
Okay. Yeah,
Rogan O'Hanley. You had Scott Presser, who's not even a journalist. He's just like an activist guy for the GOP.
Jack Posobiec.
Then you also had Savannah Hernandez and a couple other people.
Okay, up to 10 people received.
Yeah, there was a couple of them. So what ended up actually happening was the White House has been calling a lot of right-wing political people to the White House. I don't know if you saw this week, the Pentagon just had one of the first press briefings with new media, and all the new media is right-wing. You had Laura Loomer there. You had people from Turning Point USA. Jack Posobiec was there. You had a lot of independent people, because the image that the Pentagon wants to give is we've gotten rid of the fake news media. We got rid of CNN and the Washington Post, etc. And it's not that you just got rid of them. It's like a whole backstory of they refused to sign some paper saying that they were going to promise to whatever. I don't really know the specifics, to be honest, just because I covered it a while ago and I don't want to mislead people. But basically the idea was the Pentagon had a press corps, which included AP, Fox News, CNN, all the most legacy media of the people. They got rid of them because the Pentagon said, we're tightening things up. You can't just walk around the Pentagon without clearance or whatever. The administration was alleging that sometimes journalists would specifically put themselves in rooms where they didn't have clearance so that they can overhear top secret things, and then they would publish these things as like sources say or whatever. So basically what this administration is saying, and I of course I can't verify any of this, was that they were tightening the ship with the Pentagon press corps. They had to sign a new set of rules, and even Fox News said, we're not signing this.
Okay.
And so all of them, there was like the whole day where like they all had to pick up their stuff and leave, and like they made like a whole media spectacle of it. Here we are leaving, we're getting kicked out by the Pentagon, etc. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of those people I don't agree with. I can't stand some of these people, Some of them are good people, going Donald Trump. Some of them I know are good people,
Terrible people, but good people.
Yeah. And so this week, the Pentagon had all these right-wing influencers. And so going back to that day, so what ended up happening was all this group of people that were given the Epstein files, the binder, they weren't there for that. They were there for a completely different meeting. I honestly don't remember what it was, but the way it was told to me was that they had a full day at the White House, all this group of influencers and people, and they got a tour. They got to take pictures with the president and the vice president, some of them, if not all of them. And they just want to say, hey, it's a new administration. We're being transparent. If you guys ever want to come, you now have the relations because, we're a Republican government. You guys are Republicans. You guys are strong conservatives. You're welcome back, et cetera, et cetera. The way one of my friends explained it was that all of a sudden they were in a room and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel walk in, and they were like, oh, wow. Like, we got to meet the new FBI director and the new attorney general. And that Pam Bondi walked in with these binders. And people were like, okay, what's going on? And she started handing them out to people.
You're being indicted.
And I know, right? Yeah, you're all going to jail. And of course, the front of it said Epstein Files Phase 1. And so they all looked at each other like, no way. Are you kidding me? And so they thought, holy crap. But I'm just telling you again, I'm not asking anyone to believe me. I have no reason to lie to you. I have no reason to lie to the audience. The way my friend explained it was this was never part of the agenda. And the way it was later explained to them, because a lot of them got pissed. They're like, bro, we're all getting crap online because of this stunt that you guys pulled. The way it was explained to me was that this was Pam Bondi's idea. She found out that there was these right-wing influencers and journalists, and she took advantage of the situation. She's like, we're gonna blow this up.
But it feels like they're not able to read the room no more.
No, yeah, no, exactly.
You
exactly.
can't do that.
It's
You can't
terrible.
play
It was
those
terrible
people.
optics. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing is, what's so interesting, and this is one of the things again that I appreciate on the right for the morals and the values, is you could pull that off with Democrats. You can't pull it off with the Republicans, because a lot of Republicans, not all of them, not necessarily, they stand on these principles. They stand on, dude, you're not going to gaslight me. You can't sit here and tell me that our economy is better when I still can't afford to buy a house or whatever, you know? And so that's one thing I appreciate, is not the infighting or the eating each other alive. It's just the fact that we hold each other accountable.
Right.
And that's super important to me. That's one of the reasons I still kind of lean, at least politically, Republican, even though I'm not necessarily happy with the party itself. And to me, really identifying as one party, it's never been a big factor. If you say you're a Democrat, you know, I'm not going to be like, oh, man, you must be stupid. You know, that's not the case at all. I see you first and foremost as a human being. I think that you have things that you care about, and maybe the things that you care about are not things that I care about, right, et cetera. And a lot of the times it's because people are just misinformed, or sometimes even I know Democrats that are more Republican than I am, but they just don't want to switch parties. They're just like, like who cares? It's California. Democrats outnumber. I'll just vote Republican every election, you know, whatever. And so to finish up that story, though, to wrap it up, is after they were given the files, they kind of briefed them and said, hey, we're going to start rolling out, like, you know, and one thing people need to remember is the Epstein files, the name came from the Twitter files. I don't know if you remember when Elon Musk first bought, right? Exactly. Yeah. So Elon Musk worked with a group of journalists and influencers. I think you had Matt Taibbi. I know you had Michael Schellenberger, who's an independent in California, who ran for governor, by the way. And he had a group of these people, and they were releasing these Twitter files, right? And who was doing what, and they, you know, they ended up finding out that the Biden administration was working with social media to censor specific people, which is extremely illegal, right, et cetera. And so anyways, that's where the Epstein files came from. And I think that's where the idea came from, was we're going to work with these influencers that just so happen to be here. And the way it was told to me was that Pam Bondi just thought of it right there on the spot. And so they Cash Patel, like, bro, let's do Epstein files. And so they grabbed these random binders. They just printed these things out, and they gave everyone all the same redacted. And the thing is, they already had the redacted files anyway. But they just wanted to create this illusion like, hey, you guys are on notice. Bad guys, you're on notice. We've got people with the files now, et cetera. And so they were told, do not talk about it. We're going to give you a time and day on when to release it to social media, et cetera. And then eventually they all left that room in the White House, or wherever it is that they were. The reason it went super viral was because obviously the press corps at the White House ended up taking pictures of all of them. And what ended up happening is, I don't know if you remember, but it was a bunch of them lined up. There's like photos of them kind of like in a line, and they're all leaving together. Yes. Well, it's because they were leaving that room. And, you know, again, I don't know what to make of it. They were actually escorting these influencers around so they can leave quietly. But what ended up happening was that same day, there was some foreign dignitaries that came to the White House, and the press corps was waiting for these foreign dignitaries. I don't know if it was one person or a group of people. I don't know if it was like a United Nation thing, or I forget what the exact thing is. The press corps was already waiting, and all of a sudden they see these people with binders come out.
But they posed.
That's the thing. They didn't mean to pose. It's just they saw the press corps, and the press asked them, "What do you have?" And so that's where they're like, I'm going to show you what I have. But they weren't told, don't tell the media, don't, you know, they weren't told, hey, when you guys go out, the press is going to be waiting for you guys. Make sure that you show them what happened. It just happened. Because from what I understood was they were trying to quietly get them out of there, because they were never supposed to tell the media or post on social that they had these binders. They were supposed to wait for a date and time to reveal everything.
Okay, but that was phase one. After a few months,
yeah,
Trump said, "There's no still talking about this." Gaslit.
So I think that, and again, I'm glad you brought it up because I didn't want to walk away from that. It is that what people have speculated, and I tend to agree with this, is upon further review of the evidence, I think that this administration figured out this implicates a lot of people on our side too. It implicates people that we need in Congress. It implicates people that we need in these Senate positions.
In other words, we need those allegedly pedophiles in those positions.
Because
do they hear themselves?
Because I know. And you know what though, man? Have you ever seen the show House of Cards?
Of course.
The best show ever. If you are into
first
politics,
3 seasons.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because obviously, Kevin Spacey ended up, committing crimes and pedophilia, ironically, which kind of goes into allegations and stuff like that. I get it. But to me, one of the most fascinating and greatest shows of all time.
Right.
Obviously, outside of the Kevin Spacey stuff, and toward the end, it was because they had to kill him off from the show because he was going through some legal issues and stuff. And so,
don't forget he's homeless now.
Yeah,
Academy Award winner.
I remember that. Yeah, I know. Wasn't that crazy?
I don't have a place to live, bro. Stop it. You don't have a place to live.
Yeah,
bro, go and act.
I know. Yeah, and so that show talks about the way it works in politics. Is there was this one season where there was a congressman who ended up getting high with drugs in DC and hiring a hooker.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you remember, but he ends up getting pulled over by the DC police.
Mm-hmm.
And so he goes to jail and he's like, dude, it's over for me. I'm done for. Once this hits the headlines, it's over. Another congressman, Kevin Spacey, calls in a favor because his assistant says, hey, this guy's in jail. And so Kevin Spacey plays a Democrat. He's like the minority whip. So he's the one making sure that the Democrats have enough votes to pass legislation. And so he's a high-ranking member of the Democratic Party. And so he gets told by his staffer, hey, this guy just got arrested. I just got a tip from the police that one of our guys, another Democrat from the state of Pennsylvania, just got arrested for blow and prostitution. And they're like, did they enter it into the books? Like, no, not yet. They're still processing him. And he kind of gives him like this head nod, like, take care of it. They end up calling a favor with the chief of police of DC, and they let the guy go. And there's never a record of this Democrat. So when he gets let go in the show, he's like, what the hell? Why are you guys letting me go? And then what does Kevin Spacey do? He asserts his authority. He's like, invites him over. And he's like, hey, I heard you had some fun. And he's like, how did you know about that? And he's like, you didn't really think that you just got away with it, right? And he's like, it was you. You got me out. You made sure that I was taken care of. And then he's like, and I hope you know that comes with a price. And he basically said, from now on, when I say jump, you freaking say how high.
Right.
And so I think that that's the aspect of politics that people don't understand is that I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's moral.
It is what it is. Facts.
But unfortunately, there's power in having leverage over your enemies into doing what you need to get done.
You know what's wild? So when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, Benny Johnson went onto Instagram, I want to say like 20 minutes after, 30 minutes after. And he said, and many others on the right, influencers said, this is the violence from the left. How do you know that, first of all? And second of all, it's division.
Mm-hmm.
You divide one American, which is bad American, against the good American.
Correct, yeah.
And you said you have a leverage over your enemies, but that enemy is an American.
Right.
You can't do that. These are your fellow Americans.
Right. And I just want to make
enemies.
Right. And I do just want to make it clear. I would never paint elected Democrat politician in the same light that I would appoint a shooter. Right? Two completely different types of enemies. I guess what I meant was a political enemy is I know that you're a Democrat and you're not going to support me and you're not going to support and vote for the things that I need to get done. But if I have leverage over you,
so I'm going to cover your crime just to get the votes, but you're a criminal.
And see, that's how
the whole world works.
I know.
And it sucks.
Exactly. And that's what I was about to tell you. If you think that the United States is
No,
unique,
of course not.
and the thing is if you think politics is the only thing unique to this, absolutely, this could happen anywhere. It could happen at a hospital. It could, there could be, your HR finds out that you did something stupid at a party and that you should have been fired for it. I mean, that's just unfortunately how the world works, man. Whether it's politics, whether it's anything, yeah, it's unfortunately business as usual. And so I don't know how far up it goes. I don't know if Donald Trump knows the specific names, and I don't know if he's had conversations with these people of like, hey, the Kevin Spacey, right? Thing. I know what you did. And from now on, when I say jump, you say how high. I don't know if that happened with members of Congress and that's also not what I'm saying. There could be many reasons, maybe he just delayed it. Maybe, because he was talking about how the Epstein thing has kind of become a hoax. And to some degree, I kind of agree in the sense that the hoax is that Democrats are trying to make it seem like all of a sudden they care about the Epstein files. I think that that's a bunch of baloney because it's like, well, wait a minute. You guys were in charge for 4 years. Right. Why didn't you release it back then if you cared so much about it? And I think the other hoax, or not necessarily a hoax, but I think that the other big lie was that they want them released because they think that Trump is implicated somehow. And I think that that's also like another big misconception. And the only reason I say that, and here's the thing is, I voted for Donald Trump in 2024. If he's guilty, get rid of the guy. See, and that's what I mean by I don't really care to have like this Republican Democrat. If you did something wrong, you need to pay the consequence for it. I don't care if you're a sitting president or I don't care if you are someone that works at a hospital. To me, there's no difference, right?
And there's no immunity. Like Biden did for all his family and Fauci. Bro, if you committed a crime 10 years ago, you go to prison.
But again, that's immunity. That's part of that system, though. That's the part of the system of we protect our own. It's unfortunate, man. Yeah.
And these people claim they're Christians?
Yeah.
I grew up in a black church. Bro, we've seen you. You've seen you in a black church.
Yeah.
He was the first time in a black church.
Yeah, I know. It is. And that's the unfortunate side of things, man, is that, that's why politics is tricky that way, in that you go in with the right intentions. I mean, look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. At least she's claiming, hey, I came in with the right intentions and I came in to really serve the American people. But unfortunately, what I've seen is both parties behave the same way and both parties are part of the problem. And obviously, I do believe that there's a lot of truth to that. But I also believe that there is a sort of, maybe not honor, but I do believe that if you claim that you're one of the good ones, then even more so it's imperative that you remain there. Because if you don't, who's going to replace you?
Right.
Someone that's willing to toe the line. Someone that's willing to, exactly. And so to me, it's a little, it's kind of convenient timing, the fact that she's retiring 2 days after she gets her full pension, because I think you have to serve in Congress 5 years exactly in order to get your pension. Did you know about that?
5 years only?
Yeah.
You have to serve for 20 years as a firefighter and 5 years as a congressman?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't compare those two.
No, yeah, I know. But, in some fairness, I think it's a lot harder to get elected because you have to get elected twice.
And re-elected, right.
So you got to do a pretty decent job.
A lot of kissing.
Yeah. Kissing babies.
Yeah, babies, right.
Yeah, and so to me, it's convenient timing that she's retiring 2 days, or she's resigning 2 days after she gets her full pension. So it's kind of like, okay, well, obviously you're also kind of in it for yourself, making sure that you're taken care of. And, if people want to believe that's right or wrong, that's up to them. But it's legal and just the way the rules are set up right now. But I do think that there is almost like, if you're claiming that you are one of the good ones, then I think it's more so your duty to stay. Now, you could make the argument that she made where like, look, even if I wanted to stay, I know that it's going to get ugly. I know it's going to get ugly, and I know that they're just going to come after me anyway. But then at least you can say you fought to the very last day.
Right.
And you leave with dignity, at least in that sense.
On the shield.
I mean, unless she has something to hide. Maybe she's worried that if she stays in long enough that she doesn't do what they say in resigning now, to make sure that the next person gets in line, that maybe they would unveil some things about her.
Like what? No one cares about your sex life if you don't.
And that's the thing, is your sex life is already out there, right? I don't know if you remember that. Like, they discovered that she was like cheating on her husband with like a fitness instructor. I think that
she's not a pastor.
No, I agree, but I think that every Christian should hold themselves accountable and should uphold themselves to the same values and morals that a pastor should, because you're both reading from the same Bible and you believe all the same things.
But we all sin. We all lie.
I agree. But I don't know, maybe like if the right word is, I'm a little bit more old fashioned, where if you're in a position of leadership, you should uphold yourself to an even higher standard.
I agree with you.
So to me, it's like, I wouldn't say a pastor and a congressman or congresswoman is in the same level, as far as, I would respect a congresswoman as much as I would respect a pastor, spiritually speaking. But I do believe that it's the same level of importance of title. And I think that there's a certain honor to the office that you should uphold, is like, hey, man, I can't just keep doing these things. If you did it before office, like, and to me, that's just politics 101. You're running for Congress and all of a sudden a story from 10 years ago comes to light somehow. To me, it's like, okay, dude, what you did 10 years ago, what you said 15 years ago, obviously your views have probably changed. You're probably not the same person. If you apologize, I understand you're only apologizing because people found out. Right. But if there was nothing that people found out, you wouldn't have to apologize. So it's kind of like a dual thing, right? It's like, well, they're only apologizing because you're running. But it's because they're running that this thing has been made light. Otherwise people wouldn't care.
They get caught, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry not because you did it. You're sorry because you got caught.
Because you found out that this is what happened. Exactly. And so, her situation is tricky, but I still think that she should have stayed there to the very last day. And again, if you're claiming to be one of these people that, hey, I'm more moral and righteous than a lot of these people, then stay. Let the people decide. At the end of the day, if you're really being honest, I think the people will support you enough and be like, hey, I know that they might have millions, but I'm willing to donate $20 a month. And with enough of us, that's competitive money,
We'll see what happens with Thomas Massie.
Well, we're going to see what happens with Thomas, because he's kind of on the same boat as Marjorie Taylor Greene, except he's choosing to stay.
Right. At least for now.
At least for now, yeah. Because, I mean, his wife died under weird circumstances, so.
Very weird situation. He got married already.
Yeah. Like, what is, like a year later to like a staff or something like that?
And when he did this episode with Tucker, he spoke very highly of his wife, and he was, at that moment, she was alive. Mm-hmm. He told his story how he loved her. Then after, I want to say, a few months, she mysteriously died. Mm-hmm. He was asked whether he thinks something mysterious happened or not. He said, no, she died of a disease or something. Yeah. And then a year after, he remarried and said, this is almost allegedly the love of my life. Mm-hmm. Bro. Yeah. A year ago, 2 years, not even 2 years ago, you said this was the love of your life. There is a new love of your life?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, in fairness, I'm not trying to cover for the guy or anything like that. Obviously, I'm sure you've had the conversation with your wife where your wife's like, would you ever remarry, blah, blah, blah. And before I used to be like, oh, of course, never, blah, blah, blah. And now, because we've been married for 20 years, I'm like, oh, man, yeah, of course. And it's going to be someone way younger than you, for sure.
If I'm not 80 or something.
Yeah, no, I tell her all the time. And so she's like, ha, ha. So she asks less and less now because she knows that the question is kind of, a joke now. But with Thomas Massie, what I will say is, and this is what, what I read is, men tend to remarry faster than women. Women tend to last longer divorced and single.
Erica Kirk.
I don't know. But I love the loud slurping. And what I will say is, I don't think he was being disingenuous with his first wife. Obviously, and here's the thing, and this is like a conspiracy, is that he goes on record saying that every person of Congress has an APAC handler. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden his wife dies. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Very.
Right. So that's the conspiracy there, you know? I don't know what to make of it. I can't prove anything, et cetera. Rest in peace to her, right? And especially the children, man. Regardless of how you feel of him or her, whatever, it's truly tragic for the children. I will say, Excuse me. What I will say is that I think the woman was a staffer. So it's someone that was already pretty close to him. So to me, it just kind of makes sense. If it was someone completely random, like I was on a trip to the Philippines on some congressional and I just met her there or whatever, I'd be like, what the heck? But the fact that it's a staffer that you see every single day, I can kind of understand.
Yeah, but why would you do it publicly? Why would he post? Why did he do this picture?
Well, I mean, his whole life is public anyway, man. You know, people would have figured it out anyway. Maybe. You know, especially now that he's seen as like public enemy number one.
At least it's not his sister from Somalia.
Right. Exactly. At least it's not his sister for Somalia, so he can gain U.S. citizenship and then have to denounce his second dual loyalty. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. So he's staying in the fight. And you know what? I can appreciate dissidents. I don't have to agree with him all the time. I don't even have to agree that his motive is 100% true and honorable, because there's a lot of things that he's voted for or against that are very questionable, right? Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But, you know, again, it's anytime I read anything from Congress, man, I'm just like, just politics, man, you know, and here's the reality is, I don't think that we'll ever really reach a time where it just won't be like this. Maybe not to the same gravity. You know, if we can get over the Epstein stuff and we can hold people accountable, hopefully just the case itself scares people enough to not fall into the same trap in the future. So like maybe in 20 years, we won't have an Epstein case because we learned from the past. That's what you kind of hope will happen, right? Is, look, man, the 119th Congress went through the whole Epstein thing. Now that you're in the 125th Congress, you want to make sure you stay away from that. And I can just tell you,
stay away from the kids, little children,
or not.
Can
just
you
that,
please do that?
But honeypots too, right? Because that's like another big thing is honeypots. You've got like the
Sued.
Fang and you know, these people that are foreign assets that are sleeping with people of Congress to gain access to top secret information or just congressional information.
And then you suddenly wake up and you find out that you're getting sued.
Right. Yeah. I know. No, yeah, man. It's, I you know, I don't want to be on record telling everyone you should watch House of Cards, because I know how people feel about Kevin Spacey. It's like, how can you watch something like that? I watched it obviously before any of this had happened with Kevin Spacey. And to me, still, however, it's still the greatest show. If you're into politics, if you want to learn how politics works, I know people say like, it's just a show.
Oh.
Let me tell you, man, every person in Congress, every person that's involved in politics that has watched the show has said this is exactly how it works. Obviously, there's some like very extreme stuff, like where there's an episode where Kevin Spacey, you know, he's sleeping around with a journalist, and so he's feeding her information.
But don't spoil. Maybe don't spoil for the guys.
Right? Well, yeah. I mean, it's a small bit, you know. But let's just say he gets rid of he gets rid of the problem, right? And so I think that there's obviously some aspects. I'm like, okay, maybe this probably wouldn't happen, you know what I mean? But who knows? You know what I mean? We're finding out things of our Congress that we thought would never be happening before.
Don't forget that Clinton's friends, acquaintances some of them were shot with a shotgun and then hung themselves.
Yeah. The suicides, yeah.
The suicides.
Yeah, all the...
No shotgun found.
Yeah.
So he shot himself, then hung himself.
Yeah, 3 bullets to the back of the head.
Okay.
Yeah. The first one, they didn't do it.
Yeah.
Second one almost did it. Third one for sure.
And then...
Yeah.
Like that. Whew,
yeah.
Just to make sure.
Just to make sure. Yeah.
Bro, what's the price of the gas in California right now?
You know,
$5?
I haven't been to a gas station because, you know, I got my Tesla. I haven't been. I think as I was passing a gas station today, it's about $5. Yeah, like 5 something.
Why? Because I'm hearing from Donald Trump that the gas is at its lowest in 6 years.
The national averages.
Okay. So
Correct.
in Texas, they have like what? $2 a gallon. We have here $5 a gallon.
Yeah.
So Gavin Newsom is the problem.
Yeah,
California.
State politics for sure. So there's a bunch of added taxes on top of our gas already that's added on to the final price. You know, taxes for supposedly fixing the roads, paying for this program or the other thing. But yeah,
the roads are terrible.
State
in
politics
LA.
is the problem in California, correct?
Okay, so give me a chance. give me a chance, giving Newsom not even running, but winning in 2 years, in 3 years.
I think he has a very strong chance.
More than 50%.
More than 50%. You want me to tell you why?
Tell me why people, seeing all that he has done with San Francisco as its mayor, 8 years with California, people will still vote for him nationwide?
Because of emotions. People will forget all of that because of emotions. You got to understand, because we're in California, we have the strongest opinions of him because we live under his rule. We know what it's like every single day. So we have very strong opinions. The rest of the nation has heard of him, but they don't really know the intricacies. And so that's where the media will come in and puff him up. And they'll forget about all those feelings like, well, you know, I live in Wyoming. I thought I knew him, but according to the media.
Watch the guy.
Yeah. And then he goes, yeah, I can't stand it. Yeah. Yeah. So here's the reason why I think he has a more than 50% chance of winning is because he's doing the playbook of Donald Trump. And really that's the only playbook he needs. You know, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. When Donald Trump ran, he ran on not necessarily Epstein files. That wasn't like his number one thing. He talked about the economy. He talked about the poorest invasion at the border.
The first term.
No, the second term. The second term.
Okay.
So specifically, and I'm glad you brought that up, the playbook of Donald Trump 2.0.
Okay.
Donald Trump said, I will be your retribution. Elect me, and I will get to the bottom of everything. We will abolish the deep state. We will do this. We're going to get any person at the federal level that was wrongfully terminated, if you were a service member or otherwise, we're going to reinstate you. We're going to get you an honorable discharge, or you can come into the military, and we're going to give you back pay.
And they did that, right?
They're working on it still.
Kudos.
I don't know if it's been 100%. I know that there's some service members that I talked to that still said, hey, we're still working on my case, etc. He basically ran on undoing everything that Biden allowed to become a disaster. He ran on a better economy, and he also ran on, you know, the federal thing that if you were wrongfully terminated during the pandemic, we're going to make sure, and we're also going to come after Fauci. We're going to come after the people responsible. So we're not only going to fix the things that Biden did, but we're going to come after the people responsible, which is again why, fast forward to today, people are like, where are these people? Where are the handcuffs on these people, right, etc. Think of everything that Donald Trump has done up until now. Think of all the Doge cuts. Think of USAID has been completely gutted, which was a global money scam, fraud, embezzlement, whatever you want to call it. Everything he's done has the tariffs. You know, a lot of countries feel like they're getting screwed. Even though we were getting screwed,
right?
They now feel like, well, we should be able to screw you over. You're not allowed to reciprocate that. You're not allowed to screw us over the way we've been screwing you over, etc. Think of all the federal employees, the IRS employees. Think of all the people that have been terminated under President Trump. Enter Gavin Newsom, and all he has to do is, and the deportations, which is a massive one. Massive. That's probably going to be number one.
Deportation?
The deportations.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people, I know Republicans that are watching these videos of families being ripped apart, and they're like, this is not what I voted for, man. This guy promised that he was going to come after the worst of the worst.
I agree.
You know, look at these street vendors. What, come on, man. Agricultural workers, these people put food on our table.
Right.
Man, I feel bad. Yes, I voted for this, but I don't think I'm going to vote for this again. Right, whatever. Enter Gavin Newsom. This is, you know, if I was his advisor for president for 2028, this is what I would tell him to run on. Run on undoing everything that Trump has done. Tell him that you're going to reestablish all these federal employees. Because I know federal employees that were fired that voted for Donald Trump.
Because of what?
Because they were downsizing.
Okay.
So a lot of these federal agents, they've downsized. They're like, hey, we don't need that many IRS agents. We don't need anyone at the USAID. We don't need anyone at Social Security. We're downsizing all the federal government. Some of them, they're increasing, like ICE, DHS, you know, et cetera. But a lot of these jobs were cut, and these people don't have jobs anymore.
But Biden hired IRS very aggressively. How many thousand of new?
No, and I agree. I'm not saying that what one of Donald Trump has done is necessarily wrong, but what you and I need to remember is while Republicans are celebrating, there's families that are devastated.
Right.
And some of those families are Republicans that, guess what? Maybe they're not going to vote Republican next time around. Maybe they'll vote for someone like Gavin Newsom, because this is what Gavin Newsom needs to do. Gavin Newsom can come out and say, if you vote for me and you were a federal employee at any federal agency and you were terminated, I will rehire you with back pay and a pension.
Gotcha.
Who's not going to vote for that? What federal employee is going to say, I would never vote? They're going to be like, dude, we can get our life back. A secure job, secure pension, the health benefits alone were amazing under the federal government. I'm voting for this guy. Then let's go into, we're going to bring in more immigrants. We're going to open up our borders again. We're going to be a welcoming country.
And people are going to vote for that?
Well, here's a reason why. Because look at how many families have been separated under the Trump administration. Now, again, I'm not saying
but
that.
in 4 years, they're going to be separated as well. New families.
But
once the Republican comes in.
Well, maybe. That's if Gavin Newsom, wins re-election in 2032. But here's what I'm getting at is he's gonna say he could play moderate. He can be like, I'm actually gonna do what he promised. We're actually only gonna come after the worst of the worst. You will never see another street vendor. You will, if anything, we're gonna give all the illegal immigrants that are still in limbo, because you got to understand there's, Donald Trump has said, we're halting the deportation of hotel workers and agriculture. We're not really going to come after those, but those people are still in limbo. There's no path to citizenship for them. They're just like, hey, we're not going to touch you because we need you to clean hotels and we need you to pick our food, right, etc. Gavin Newsom can say, you're no longer going to be in limbo. I'm going to make you all U.S. citizens. And if you are a family that was torn apart under President Trump, I promise you that we're going to bring those family members back. If your father was deported, we're going to bring your father back. If your mom was deported and she was a street vendor, we're bringing her back. And your whole family is getting a priority. You don't think those people are going to vote for Gavin Newsom? So that's what I mean by all Gavin Newsom needs to do is play the Trump 2.0 playbook in saying everything that Trump messed up by tariffs, your cost of electronics have gone up because of tariffs. I'm bringing that back down. All these things. And so you have tech companies that rely on H-1B visas. Donald Trump is promising to end that, or at least limit it at the very least.
Or $100,000 for...
You don't think that those tech companies are going to come flooding to Gavin Newsom? But you got to remember, look at Gavin Newsom's not just a nobody. He's got Silicon Valley here. A lot of those people have stayed here and are thriving under him. Well, in their eyes. Right? In their eyes, you're like, hey, we live in California. We're thriving. We're making more money. Maybe they don't see that this is because of federal things, not necessarily because of whatever. So these tech companies are kind of already at least meeting eye to eye with Gavin Newsom. Now, if their workers are being taken away because of President Trump, and they're like, damn, bro, we got to spend more money or blah, 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 blah. Enter Gavin Newsom. He's like, hey, you guys already know me. There's a devil and that there's a devil you don't. I'm the devil you know. Work with me, pitch into my campaign. I'll bring in back all your third world country, and I'll make it even better for you. I'll make it so that you can hire them easier. I'll expedite the process. These tech companies are going to be like, hell yeah. Between AI and third world workers, we're looking to make net profit that we've never made before. We'll be able to double our income or whatever. You know what I mean? There's a way to talk to all these people in order for them to gain from a Newsom presidency. And so if you start going, those are just 3 examples. If you start adding up all these campaign promises of, if you are a family that has been torn apart because your uncle got deported or your aunt got deported or whatever, we're going to restore your family. Think about how many millions of people will be impacted by that promise. There might be Republicans that say, and that's the thing is, there's even Republicans that said, we thought by voting Donald Trump, he wouldn't come after our family, but they just took my aunt. They just took my wife. There's been stories like that where we thought that the immigration process was going to be easier. My wife missed her appointment and now they're deporting her. And we feel betrayed by the Trump administration. So imagine how many moderates, independents, and even if you get 5-10% of Republicans to vote for you, just on immigration alone.
Okay, so let's say you're right on. So we've got this in 2028 on the left, and on the right we have, let's say we have Vance and Rubio.
Okay.
And Vance is basically big tech guy, Palantir guy, friends with Peter Thiel.
Yes.
Your chances. Who wins?
I think a lot of it depends on where the Republican Party is at that time as well. And I'm talking about not like the head people, like the chairmans and the national chairwoman. I'm talking about the Republican base. A couple months ago, people were starting to hate JD Vance. They were like, oh, he's a Peter Thiel guy. You can't trust that guy. Nick Fuentes was talking about that, right? Oh, this is the guy you can't trust. And to some degree, he's still kind of talking about that, right? But it's not necessarily political implications, it's more cultural. You know, it's you can't trust him because he's in a mixed marriage, you know, and he's going to make sure that more Indians get jobs in America, whatever the case might be, right?
People said that?
I think he said that, yeah.
Fuentes.
Nick Fuentes, yeah.
Okay.
And so the point there is that it's not a political, and there are some political implications to JD Vance, but I just don't know if those implications are big enough to elect Newsom. But what I will say, and this is what I was getting to, was the base has kind of shifted. JD Vance is kind of our guy now. And the reason he's kind of our guy is because for the last couple of months, Israel has been like the #1 focus of everything, especially since Charlie Kirk's death, because you have people like Candace Owens kind of implying that maybe Israel's tied into this, that Charlie Kirk was starting to shift his views on Israel. Those were the leaked text messages, and not even the leaked text messages, but there's video of Charlie Kirk dating back years, kind of questioning Israel's government. What does that mean for us? Should we be so dependent on them and vice versa, right? And there were things this year that he said, you know, about Israel and Israel's government and donors and et cetera, et cetera. And so JD Vance has kind of taken the reins on that conversation because he's been going on a couple of the turning point events because of Charlie's memory. Mm-hmm. He's like, I want to be part of this journey. And now there's indication that Erica Kirk is basically promising to campaign and use Turning Point USA to make sure that JD Vance gets in 2028. And that's nothing new, right? Charlie Kirk helped Donald Trump in 2016, helped him in 2020, helped him in 2024, using Turning Point USA's model and huge grassroots, et cetera, to make sure that Donald Trump got elected and Republicans got elected, right? And so JD Vance hasn't shied away from the conversation. If you pay attention to the videos where he's at these Turning Point events, they always have a question and answer segment of that show or of that event when he goes out and he speaks it in front of these large audiences. And some of those questions are young men asking about Israel. Why do we have so much loyalty to Israel? Mm-hmm. What happened to the USS Liberty? How come nobody talks about that? Why do we send them so much money? What about October 7th? What about this? What about that? And what's interesting about JD Vance is he's not taking kind of like the Zionist approach of which Charlie Kirk very early on was kind of guilty of this of himself, is whenever anyone asks a question, he would accuse him of being anti-Semitic.
Right.
He would say,
I'm going to turn it on the AC.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Charlie Kirk was accused many times of starting being anti-Semitic.
Right, with some of the things that he said. And that's what he was talking about, especially with Megyn Kelly. There's that infamous video of earlier this year, I don't know if it was August of this year, where he talks to Megyn Kelly saying, hey, we're being accused of being anti-Semites because we're raising these questions about Israel or Israel's government, or, you know, or because of the people that we're allowing to be platformed at the Turning Point events, right? Mm-hmm. Charlie Kirk had that, I don't know when it was. I want to say it was maybe July or August. I want to say it was probably July, where he had the event where he had comedian Dave Smith, who I think he's Jewish.
He's Jewish.
But he's like anti-Zionist.
He's not the right Jewish.
He's not the right kind of Jewish. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know much about the guy, to be honest. I just got turned on to him this year. But to be honest, I just haven't made time to kind of really see what his views are about. But I do know that he uses his Twitter to kind of talk about raising questions about Israel and stuff like that. So, you know, for your audience, I apologize if he said worse things. I just don't know enough, so I don't want people to think that I'm just trying to give him a free pass. But anyways, so he platformed him because he wanted to have a debate on Israel at a Turning Point event. And so you kind of had like the pro-Israel side and the anti-Israel side. And Dave Smith was, I think, the anti-Israel side or the anti-Zionist side.
Anti-Zionist, not anti-Israel.
Right. And so that's when he was talking about, my donors are starting to get upset that I'm having these conversations. And they've accused me of being anti-Semitic. And I think to call Charlie Kirk anti-Semitic is such a slap in the face because there's so much evidence that he was so Zionist and he loved Israel and the Jewish people. And I think he went out of his way to defend Israel everywhere he was. And you have these conversations, and going back to what we were talking about, just to get kind of loop back into JD Vance, is that even Charlie Kirk early on was accused of just, if you had a question about Israel, he would kind of get very animated. He would start getting upset. He kind of like his face would start making like, oh, I know where this is going. I know why you're asking that. He would kind of imply that if you're asking those questions, that you already have a motive behind it. And I think that it's sometimes wrong to think that you can't just assume that of people, especially if you've never met these people. You should always just answer the question. There's no need to call people names because of what you think the reason is the person is asking the question. Answer the question. And JD Vance has done that. He doesn't call these people anti-Semites. He sees them as Americans first and foremost, and he understands his role. My role is I'm your vice president. You probably voted for me. If you have a question, I'm going to answer it. And so he hasn't shied away from the Israel problem. He doesn't make a face. He doesn't say, I know why you're asking that. That's very anti-Semitic to ask that. He's not doing that. And so I think that there's been a shift in maybe the beginning of the year of who JD Vance was and who he is today. And I think that because he's so young, right? I think he's like the youngest vice president to ever serve, if I'm not mistaken. I think, what is he, like 39? I don't know.
Is that even the 40?
I'm not sure exactly how old he is, but if you want to pull it up real quick. But I think because he's so young, I think he has his finger on the pulse of where the young base is at, of what young people are worried about. And I think he understands that they still haven't really fixed the economy to help the younger generation. And I think one of the latest polls had Donald Trump negative in polling with young men, specifically ages 18 to 29. I think he was like negative 50 points or something like that. I don't know, which was a huge swing from the 2024 where he had, I forgot what he had, like plus 29, or I don't know exactly what it was.
But are you concerned with JD Vance's ties with Peter Thiel?
Oh, of course, yeah. And I would never want to minimize that. But I would say that I think he understands that that's a problem for a lot of the voters, is the fact that they have these ties. And so that kind of comes back to like the Epstein stuff is even if you're not on the list, maybe don't do things that implicate you of wrongdoing, right? And so with Peter Thiel's relationship, it's interesting because one thing we know about politics is that really it's the lobbies and these lobbyists and these people with the money to move and shake politics. You and I can vote. We ultimately.
I'm not a citizen.
You're not a citizen. Okay. Hopefully soon. Maybe one day. Yeah. So you can help us get people elected, man. Come on. We need you.
I'll vote for Gavin Newsom. Best of the best.
Okay, maybe you should not. All right, never mind. Retract what I just said. No, but what we understand. So I can vote. The average American vote, that's as far as we get involved in politics, right? Unless we go door knocking and we try to convince some people to vote a certain way, etc. But the people really doing the damage in politics, and I don't necessarily mean that in a negative way, like damage for the negative, but what I mean is the people that can make big dents in politics, with the most influence in politics, are the donors. the people that can afford to spend $1 billion on a campaign, on a presidential campaign. There's going to be people always that are close to these candidates because they see an opportunity. And to me, it's just smart business. If you own a multi-billion-dollar company, why wouldn't you want to be sitting next to the most powerful person, not just in the nation, but in the world, that can delegate and relegate and regulate, rather, policy that is going to affect you? If you are a major exporter of a product, this president has the ability to screw you or to help you. And if you are a major importer, if you know, I know people that were extremely upset about the tariffs, and they basically disowned Donald Trump completely because they were able to become multimillionaires, not multi-billionaires, but multimillionaires, because they import a lot of their product from third world countries, specifically China. And when the tariffs went in, now their bill is coming in, and they're like, dude, what I used to have to pay $100,000 for, now I'm paying $300,000 for. And I am freaking pissed because I voted for this guy. And in my mind, I'm like, he ran on this. He specifically told you we were going to work on tariffs.
Correct.
It shouldn't be news to you. And so getting back to it, though, so the Peter Thiels, they're never going away. Whether it's him or whether it's someone else in his place, the people with that much money that have the ability, the time, and the resources to help someone get elected into president, they're always going to be there. And ironically enough, House of Cards, it goes into that when there was, I don't know if you saw the whole thing, but there was a part where Kevin Spacey was working closely with the president, and Kevin Spacey was looking to appoint Kevin Spacey's character, I think it was into vice president.
Yes.
And so
that's the first season, right?
Right. And so he sent him to a close friend, but the president told him, I'm thinking of tapping this guy. And so, but it was actually the other way around. He was actually looking at appoint Kevin Spacey's character, but he sent him to his good friend who can read people really good. And what did the guy say? The guy said, it was like, dude, I have the power to make you vice president right now. And the guy's a civilian guy, right? And he's like, I will tell the president that you are the guy to be vice president, but you will forever be in my debt. And Kevin Spacey said, no.
But not even that. So now we have Larry Ellison, that his son owns Skydance. Now they own Paramount, CBS. They are about to own TikTok.
Yeah.
That's way too much.
I agree.
For one family, quote unquote, to own of media.
But again, I mean, these people had the proximity and they had the resources. Republicans need to win elections. And sometimes that comes with a price. And sometimes our price is compromise.
And citizens are always screwed. Most of the time.
Basically, yeah, because if the interests, and what I mean by basically, and yeah, you're right, most of the time, but who's to say Peter Thiel is not a good guy, right? Like, I'm not saying he is.
Me? He hosted 4-hour seminar about the Antichrist.
No, right.
Thank you.
Give me a hypothetical. I'm hypothetically speaking here. What I mean is sometimes these people that have the proximity and the closeness, they also have our interest in mind. For example, and one perfect example that I don't have to make up is Elon Musk. Elon Musk helped President Trump get elected. And I'm sure there was equal, right? I help you get elected. You help me with Tesla. And we work out a deal behind the scenes, right?
Great cars, piece of shit, great cars.
Yeah. The car itself, I just bought a Tesla. You saw me drive up in it. I will say the car itself it's nothing. It's a terrible car. It's the software. It's the full self-drive.
Right.
The full self-drive mechanism alone is the most revolutionary piece of technology I have ever witnessed outside of a smartphone.
Right.
The smartphone, yeah. It's in, I mean, and it's only gotten better because I know people that owned the Tesla and they had the full self-drive, or not full self-drive, but it had kind of like self-driving kind of, back in 2016, 2017. And I had a friend that sold it and he got a Prius because he's like, I just didn't like it, whatever. And so he got in my Tesla and he's like, this is a million times better than what it used to be. He's like, I am shocked. Shocked. And so that's the only reason I got it, because I travel a lot for work. And sometimes when I'm out there on the field for 4 or 5 hours, the last thing I want to do is hop in traffic for 2 hours, bumper to bumper, and put strain on my body when I'm able to just relax and
guys,
listen to
the link
music.
is going to be in the description, please.
Yeah. Make sure you
Tesla.
use promo code,
Anthony.
Yeah, Inform with Anthony, you get 20% off your Tesla. No, I'm kidding. But going back to that is, so yes, the Peter Thiel's no good, but they're still going to have the influence and they're still going to be around. But once in a while, you'll get the Elon Musk, where I think I genuinely do think some of these things I don't agree with. He has the interests of the American people at heart. He has proved through Twitter. I mean, just the fact that he bought Twitter for free speech is something I thought I would never witness in my lifetime. A billionaire that just said, I want American, who's not even from here, by the way, who says, I want to own Twitter for free speech. You can say anything on Twitter, anything, and it's allowed. I know some people have gone like banned. I don't know if it's like doxing. Obviously, you can't like dox people. I can't be like, hey, this person.
I believe you can say some stuff about Israel. You can say stuff about Ireland, Lithuania, Russia, America, but Israel, bam.
No.
Community notes, right away.
No.
Haven't you seen those tweets?
No, honestly, here's the thing though. If you're just outright lying, like, okay, for example, like...
I mean, the same phrase. Russia exterminated. Okay. America exterminated. Lithuania exterminated. Israel exterminated. Boom. Community notes.
I haven't seen that, to be honest. I don't know. Maybe. I'm not trying to minimize anything. And I don't think it should be censored. I think that community notes is pretty good. Personally, I definitely know you don't know this, but a lot of people don't know this. But I actually write community notes for Meta.
Really?
Yeah, they send me an email saying that your account is in good standing and we know you're a journalist. Would you like to become a community notes person? And I don't think, I think anyone can apply. I'm not trying to make it seem like, oh, hey, they reach out to me and only like a select few, and we meet once a month with mask on and stuff, No, nothing like, and we drink raw milk, No, I think anyone can apply, but they had reached out to me saying, hey, we want you to become and so I help write community notes. So I do appreciate community notes because I think it is important for people, especially now with AI. That's one thing I see community notes the most in. It's AI. Hey, this is AI generated. Exactly. Cool. And so that's great. To be honest, I haven't seen it on Israel. The only time I really see community notes on an Israel post is if someone is falsely accused of getting paid $7,000, which that kind of became like a meme, right? Like, oh, you're getting paid $7,000 because obviously there's a very real report earlier this year that Israel was paying some influencers, which I think it was only like 15 of them. So it's not like everybody's getting paid, by the way. But there was like 14 influencers in America that were either Zionist or Israeli or Jewish that were getting paid something like $7,000 a post. But there was like a limit. I think it was only like up to like 6 posts, $7,000 each, etc. And then it became a meme. Like, anytime anyone posted anything pro-Israel, like, oh, what a good boy, here's your $7,000. So I've seen some community notes that said there is no indication that this person ever received $7,000, whatever. Because there are some people that as an original post say, this person just posted this, I hope you enjoy your $7,000. And then the community notes be like, unlike what this author claims, there's no indication that this person has been paid $7,000. So those are the only times I really see it. And to me, it's kind of like, should there be community notes on satire? You know what I mean? Like on jokes. Like sometimes when people say it, I know they're joking. You know what I mean? I'm like, dude, obviously we don't all think that every post is 7,000. So to me, it's kind of like, dude, it's a joke. Do we really need to community note it? But who knows? Maybe there's people out there that are like really believing it. They're like, holy crap, like $7,000, etc.
Bro, crap can be holy.
Yeah.
Come on.
But I mean, and I guess maybe to just kind of close the loop there is, yes, you're going to have your Peter Thiels. I don't necessarily think it's a good thing at all. And And the only thing I will just say is just I just hope that there's more Elon Musk in the future that have the interests of America. And I'm not saying in everything he does, because I know that there was a controversial take where he was asking for more H-1B visas, but it's looking like he's making a turn on that because people are kind of like ganging up on him, like, hey, dude, this is why you're wrong. And so what I can appreciate about Elon Musk at least is that he's open to the conversation. And Elon Musk kind of strikes me as the kind of person is if you make enough memes about it and you make the memes cool, he's now for that because he's like, hey, I want to be like you guys, I don't want to be beholden to these things.
But first, he's unstable. He can say that Donald Trump is an Epstein files.
So
you can't do that on that level. You can't accuse the sitting president that he saw him on.
But I think it depends on technicalities. Is Donald Trump's name in the Epstein files? I'm asking you.
I don't know.
Yeah, the answer is yes.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that's what I mean by technicalities. Remember when I was talking to you about there's 30,000 files, there's a name here. It doesn't mean that this person is guilty.
Everybody knew what he was saying. Everybody understood what Elon Musk was saying back then.
And I think that's why he deleted it. It's because, well, first of all, he's on the spectrum. I think he has like Asperger's disease or something like that. And their logic, I think, again, not trying to make an excuse for the guy. I'm not trying to justify anything. I don't think he thought of it that way when he posted it. Maybe he did. Let's just say for the sake of argument, he did mean it maliciously. I'm going to post this and I want people to think that he's on there. Maybe in his mind, he's like, this will put the pressure to finally get them to release it. Or maybe this will hurt Donald Trump enough. But I think Elon came to find out quickly enough that even though he's the richest man in the world, the president is still king.
Jesus is king of kings.
No, I agree.
Yes, you can be a billionaire, but you have to be at least stable. And him showing up at the Halloween party with the Antichrist costume, what is that all about?
Yeah, the Baphomet one.
Yeah. Him wanting more H-1B visas. Him wanting the incentive for EV cars, the $7,500 that got canceled. That's why he got mad. And he reacted basically like a little girl.
Oh, right, yeah.
You're not giving me this, so you're a pedophile. You're a this. You're a thief. You're a that.
Yeah.
And he's worth $500 billion.
He's on track to become the first trillionaire. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
Very crazy.
You know what's crazy? NVIDIA evaluated at $5 trillion. That's insane. That's a bubble.
But again, I'll just kind of go back to it is as rich as Elon Musk is, he'll never have as much influence as the president does. And the president is ultimately decided by us at the end of the day. They can have all these influences around them, but at the end of the day, if we don't go out and vote for this person, then nothing matters. You see what I'm saying?
But then you have election fraud. Do you?
I think election fraud obviously exists, and I think it always will. Like, I don't know if you know this, by the way, Venezuela, right? They have an installed dictator, the Maduro, right? Very good dancer, by the way. Right. In Venezuela,
doesn't go in comparison with this, bro.
So yeah, I don't know if you know this, but in Venezuela, the way you vote is you have to show up with your ID.
So racist.
Every person has to show up with an ID so that you can prove you are who you are. This is Venezuela, by the way. This isn't. And then you have to put your thumbprint. Once you put your thumbprint, it runs you to the system, the biometrics, and it unlocks you, and it gives you a certain amount of time so you can go out and vote.
Oh, really?
That's the only way that you can vote.
Venezuela.
Yeah. Just put like, do you have to show ID in Venezuela?
ID to vote.
Yeah. And then it'll tell you like biometrics as well.
Biometrics are wild.
Yeah. Let's see. Does Venezuela show biometrics?
Yes, in Venezuela, voters generally must present a valid national identity card to vote. Okay.
And it's only one day. There's no mail-in ballots. And it said, does Venezuela show biometrics to vote? Let me see here.
Yes, Venezuela uses biometrics in its voting system, and it's one of the most biometric-heavy electoral systems in the world. Every voter must, 1, present their national ID, 2, place their finger on a biometric fingerprint scanner, Oh, wow.
Yeah. And you get 1 day to vote, and you get no mail-in ballots. Now, let me ask you a question.
They basically know who you voted for.
But here's the thing is, how does Maduro keep getting elected into power
Because
when they have the most secure elections?
Because people voted for him.
Because people voted for him. That or
Election fraud.
election fraud. So that's my thing is I one of the things I hate discussing the most with voters is trying to convince them that they have to get out and vote when they're already convinced elections are rigged. And they think that if we just had to show voter ID, then things would go our way. But then look at Venezuela. If
Your way means Republicans?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not voting, blaming Republicans. What I'm saying is Americans are under the illusion that if we only had a set of rules, we can get rid of election fraud altogether.
No.
Exactly. And that's where I'm at. You can make them more secure, sure, but look at Venezuela. One of the most secure election processes in the entire world. Biometrics. You have to present. This right here is unique to you and you only. There's no one in the world that has this.
Right.
Your thumbprint. Okay? They have to present that in order to vote. And Maduro continues to win. So something's going on there. Either a third world country has figured out how to rig IDs that are issued to you by the government, and they've figured out how to rig biometrics in order to install a dictator.
Or they just present the result.
Or people just continue to vote for communism.
Or people continue to vote, just like they do in Belarus. They're voting for Lukashenko, dictator since 1994, I want to say. 30 plus years. And they love him.
So and again, I go back to that is you have Republicans who refuse to vote until the voting process is fixed. I will never vote until voter ID gets installed. How many countries have voter ID and people still be... The notion is there are some Republicans that truly believe that if we just had voter ID or if we fixed the voting system, that we would live in a Republican paradise forever. 100% of the results would go to Republicans and every state would be Republican. That's just not the case.
But at the same time, which one's Republican? Which one Republican? Randy Fine?
Exactly. And see, and that's the problem is a lot of people also just think that if only we had Republicans running every state, then the problems would be fixed. Take a look at Texas.
Right.
Texas is a prime example of Republicans are in full control
for
decades. And the people are still complaining about high cost of living. People are still complaining about border security, about the amount of immigration that has been dumped into their state. They got a big Muslim problem out there.
Mosques being built.
Cities attempting to be built with Sharia law. Yeah. And this is one of the most Republican states. And there was a Texas state legislator that wanted to introduce legislation that said, if you have 4 kids in the state of Texas, you pay 0 property tax. Because they want to boost Americans having kids.
Right.
Didn't make it through.
Only American citizen or immigrants too? Let's say
I would say American citizens. You don't have to be born here. So okay. So if you
a lot of Somalians have a lot of kids.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah. I don't
Pakistanis.
think that's the way it would work. I think that if you're like a refugee, like let's say you're a Somalian family, you have 4 kids, and then you go to the refugee program, whatever, and you become a U.S. citizen, I don't think that tax exempt would apply to you. It would apply to native Texans who had 4 kids in the state of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be legal, you know. You can't just be like a family of 4 that just came in and now you don't pay any property tax because you have 4 kids with you. But what I'm getting at is, and I get it all the time from a lot of Texans, is they're extremely upset with their full Republican leg. So that's not the answer. Holding politicians accountable is the answer. And what I will say about Elon Musk is, sure, he's not a perfect man. He showed up at a party wearing a satanic suit. He wants to call it like, oh, it was because I play this game. I know that one of the games that he plays is Diablo, right? Which is literally translation to Satan.
Yeah, but he was... I play Diablo 1, 2, and 3, but you're about to kill the Diablo. You're a paladin, you're a barbarian, a sorcerer, etc.
Okay.
But he was caught lying that he's that great of a player in Diablo.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was caught because, bro, he has 10 kids. He has multiple businesses to run.
Rich.
And he plays Diablo for hours and hours and hours. And he was...
Sure, I believe it.
I want to say he said that he was in top 10 in the world. Bro, it's impossible. You know how many nerds that are just jerking off and playing Diablo all day long?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah. I didn't know that he was. I just thought he was just like a good player. And I'm like, well, maybe he just played a lot when he was a kid and he just remembers how to play or whatever, you know. But no, yeah, I agree. If he says he's a top 10 player today, I'd find that really hard to believe for sure. But here's what I was getting at. You don't want to kick the Elon Musk of the world out of your party or your movement. As flawed as they are, you want to keep them in and you want to help guide them. Because we went from Elon Musk being like this very secular guy who's pro H-1B visas, who is wearing satanic suits to parties. And he just recently went to the Charlie Kirk Memorial, and the first thing he does is quote scripture.
That can be just a photo op. Act. Oh, look at me. Conservatives, Christians.
Maybe, but remember what we just talked about. If you're Charlie Kirk and someone asks you a question, it's not right for you to assume that. You should give people the benefit of the doubt. And what I will say with Peter Thiel, with Elon Musk, you don't necessarily want them, you don't want them kicked out. You don't want to be like, you're not Christian enough. You're not good enough. You want to keep them and be like, hey man, that's just not what we stand for. And hopefully they change their views. My hope is that when Elon Musk tweeted that, I really hope that he was in a moment of self-reflection and he's listening to these great people. I think that he probably heard Erica Kirk because she gave a really good speech at that memorial. She forgave the killer. And that's something not a lot of people can do, man. You know, and I do think that it was an honest apology, to be honest. I know it's very controversial. And she's not the first person to do it. There's a couple videos where there's a killer being convicted and there's some families
in court.
There's one very viral one where the guy's like, look, everyone before me is a parent of someone that you killed. They all hate you. And I'm just telling you, I'm a Christian man and I cannot hate you. I just wanted to tell you, I know you're going away for life, but I forgive you. And the guy just breaks down crying.
That's the hardest thing to do if you're
It's the hardest thing you can do, man. And I'll be honest with you. I hope that if anything like that were ever to happen, I can garner myself to forgive. And you don't have to do it publicly. You can forgive in your heart, right? You don't have to tell the person. But I think that from time to time it's good to hear it publicly because it's a reminder, right? Like, hey, that should be what I should be exemplifying. And so my hopes is that in Elon Musk being there is that he was moved by the message. And maybe he thought the same thing you and I were thinking, like, bro, did she just freaking forgive the killer? Like, are you freaking crazy? But maybe that was a conviction he needed because maybe he's like, I would never do that. I would never do this. I would never do that. I would never. But then hearing a faithful Christian do something of that nature for the world to see, I'm hoping he was convicted. And maybe, there's something that he was struggling with. Maybe he can't forgive his dad, or maybe he can't forgive somebody for something. And maybe he's like, maybe that's what I'm missing, man. Maybe I need Christ. Maybe I need to be more godly because I want to be like that. I want to be able to not live my life in this misery, in this prison cell that I've created for myself of hate, of loathing, of vengeance. Maybe I need to be more like them. And I'm hoping that when he, posted the scripture, that it was earnest. Whether he, you never know how he got to the scripture. Maybe he heard someone say it. Maybe he looked it up. Maybe he downloaded the Bible app. Who knows? And I'm just hoping that journey continues. Because what I have seen is he went from basically telling people we need more H-1B visas to now he's like saying we need to preserve America. Like, it's good to have American immigrants, but we don't need to import the entire world. Like, we have enough. Let's take care of the people that are already here. And that was almost like a complete 180, because now he's kind of basically going against H-1B visas, which was not his position earlier this year. Earlier this year, he went against anybody that dared speak out against H-1B, because he's like, dude, I hire a lot of these people, and I'm rich and successful because of these people. Don't you dare sit there and tell me that these people are the problem. But then what people did was, I'm not going to condemn Elon Musk. Let me show you. So people started making threads of, this is what happens to the American when we import people from third world countries to come and take these jobs. And so when he sees that data,
less of them. The only problem is that they pay less immigrants than Americans, right? For the same position.
I mean, it's a trickle effect. So it's not just like the one thing, but the one thing leads to another, that leads to another, that leads to another. And now it's like a whole plethora of things, right? At least from what I gathered. And so when when people take the time and like, hey man, I thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for buying Twitter. Let me tell you why you're wrong. You know, they don't say it like that. They're like, hey, here's why you're wrong, you know, dumbass or whatever. But they lay it out for him, and he probably reads that and he's like, I didn't realize that. I didn't know because A, I'm an immigrant to this country. So I don't know. I don't know what it's like to have 10 generations of an American family that's helped build this country. I'm just an immigrant. And this, all I know is that this country made me rich. So I want more people to do that. But then maybe he's realizing in having that system, it's a detriment to locals and natives. And now he's looking at what's happening in Europe, right? Where they're importing all these third world country people. And now there's parts of Europe that don't even look like Europe anymore. And I'll be honest with you, man, like when I was a kid, I dreamt of going to Europe. When I did my DNA test and I found out that I was mostly Spanish, we were just talking about this before the podcast, I was like, dude, I want to go to Spain. I want to see where my ancestors are from, how they traveled and all this stuff. I think there's like, you know, like it's like, especially as a man, I think it's like you want to know your history. You want to know what the men before you did for you to arrive where you are today. And whether you migrated, whether you no longer live there, to me, it's kind of a little bit irrelevant. But it's nice to know your history of like, hey, this is what we built. This is what, you know, et cetera, et cetera. A place to call home, you know. And so I've always dreamt about going to Europe, but then I'm looking at videos of what Spain looks like today. And I'm like, dude, I'd be putting my family in danger by going to these parts of Spain, or I'd be putting my family in danger by going to England. I mean, I don't know if you saw it, but did you watch the video with Piers Morgan and Tucker Carlson?
Of course. Amazing.
I mean, I just, you know, Tucker Carlson brought up some really good points, talking about what's better today than 40 years ago here. And I couldn't believe that Piers Morgan said, the food is better. And I was like, oh my gosh, dude. And Tucker's monologue to that was so great. It's like, dude, we're talking about an empire that ruled like 25% of the world.
Which I'm against. For example, I'm not for England ruling over India, for instance, and everything that they did with Pakistan and those two religions, etc.
Yeah.
But the culture and the literature, the art, everything that was brought from England, oh, yes, of course.
Right,
amazing.
Right. But, I mean, there's an argument to be had is, would they have accomplished all those things if they weren't seeking to expand? It's the same thing with like the Roman Empire, right? I mean, you can kind of look at these places. It's like a lot of it was probably because of expansionism. They attempted to do something that no one ever dared. And so it kind of created like this emboldened statute in people where like, hey, we come from a people that explored, we conquered, you know? And sometimes people need that. Sometimes people need that to ignite something in them and be like, dude, we come from conquerors and this is not. And I agree with you.
But it's a cool story once you're the conqueror, but not the conquered one, right?
Not the conquered ones, yeah. Just ask the Native Americans, yeah. And that's not in slight, by the way. I have conversations. I have Native American friends and stuff. But and you're right in that. And in my position today, and I agree with you, is I believe in nationalism. You know, I believe that every people have a right to a home country, including Israel, by the way. You know, as controversial as that can be. Every person, every ethnicity, every race has a right. And so that's why, to me, you know, mass immigration is a massive problem.
Right.
A country shouldn't lose its history, its culture, its shared ideas.
Language,
and it definitely,
religion.
Yeah, exactly. It shouldn't do that because certain people have figured out that if you just mass migrate there, they can change the entire everything about it. And so what I was getting to was when I was a kid, I dreamt of traveling to Europe, but I want to go to a France where 90% plus of the country looks like it's history. I don't want, and I say this joke all the time, and I can say it because I'm descendant of Mexico, but I'm like, I don't want to go to France and have Mexicans cooking food for me there.
Right.
You know, because
you want to taste the French cuisine.
Right, exactly. I want, I've seen these videos of people, in Italy, for example, that make pasta and they're like, oh, my great, great, great grandfather handed down this recipe to us and this is the way we make it. And I mean, everything about them is different. If you grab someone that's learning how to roll pasta or even a professional, like let's say you went to school, the Culinary Institute of America, and you were taught how to roll pasta and you've been doing it for 10 years. There's no way you're rolling pasta better than a family that's been rolling pasta. It's embedded in your DNA.
Right.
You're just naturally going to be better at it. I truly believe it. And so when I go to Italy, I don't want Somalians cooking my food. I don't want cheap labor migrants cooking my food. When I go to Italy, I want that 12th generation Italian saying, my dad built this restaurant before there was restaurants, et cetera, because that's the whole point of visiting another nation.
To feel the culture.
To feel the culture. How is this different from what we did, right, et cetera? If there's something you like, if there's a recipe you learn, like, hey, do you guys sell? Oh, yeah, we sell cookbooks. Dude, give that to me. I want to know how to make the pasta you great figured out, whatever, because of this recipe or whatever. And I say all the time, you see it here at food courts. And again, it's not a detriment to Mexican people. We're very hardworking people, et cetera. No one's minimizing that. But I don't want to go to Panda Express. I don't want to go. You see it here. There's 10 different types of foods. I even see like Middle Eastern food. I'm like, man, I can't wait to go have Middle Eastern. And it's Mexicans cooking other food. Right. And I'm like, I'm not saying it's bad food. I just want the authenticity, bro.
That's a good word, right?
One of the things that I remember, and I'll always remember, is the first time we had our podcast, you and your wife treated me to food. Mm-hmm. And I've never tasted that kind of food. Not because I wouldn't be able to make it, but I just know it wouldn't come out the same.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? I love the authenticity of it. And so to me, I'm for that. I'm not for expansionism. I think we've kind of reached the height of, okay, we've established the line in the sand of what country belongs to what, right? That's why I kind of disagree with what Russia is doing. That's why I disagree with what Israel is doing in Palestine. I'm like, dude, leave the lines in the sand as they are. There's no reason why we can't solve things through diplomacy. Now, I understand that there's sometimes there's a long feud there, there's history there, whatever, but dude, it's 2025.
Right.
If you can't bargain with another human being, there's something wrong with you, And then some people are innately evil. I get it, But I looking back at the Afghanistan war, the actions of a few, does that, justify us going in and invading entire people? And we look back and I think I'm like, dude, this was a failed expedition here. Vietnam, the same thing, it was a failed, and now it looks like we're going into Venezuela. And I think it's a little bit more nuanced than some of the other wars. I think that there is an argument to be made with like the inflow of drugs and stuff like that, that is a detriment to the American people. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens there, but in no way, shape or form would I be for taking over Venezuela and having it be like an occupation of American troops there,
So, brother, we've come full circle because I've started with talking with you about the LA riots and the way that what kind of a lens do you use, zoom in or zoom out. So prior to us moving to California, we lived for 2 years. We lived in Spain. Mm-hmm. So what you see on X does not reflect what is actually going on in Spain. Maybe in 2 years something has changed. Yes, you can say in Birmingham, if you zoom in, you'll see a lot of Muslims that are riding horses or donkeys and etc. Right? The same goes with Spain. You can zoom in into one place in Barcelona, let's say, and you'll see crime, thieves, immigrants from Senegal and other African countries, etc. But in general, so I can say only for Spain, it's still a very Christian country, Catholic country, still mostly Spaniard country.
Yeah.
So if you ever want if you will feel the need to visit the country, please do.
Yeah.
Food is not as great as in Mexico. Climate-wise, very similar to California.
Okay.
Amazing people, especially if you speak Spanish, you're gonna treat it amazingly well. When we lived there, we didn't speak Spanish at all. I was just learning, and we were treated amazing. People in Spain are amazing.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I didn't know this before, but during the pandemic, I saw that a lot of Californians fled to Portugal, and I didn't know why. And I came to find out that Portugal and Spain have similar weather to California specifically.
Yes.
It's very sunny.
Dry,
yeah.
humid, sunny, very, very similar to.
No, yeah, and I just want to make clear, like, I'm not saying that Spain is a crap hole today. Right. And if I'm being honest, the reason we haven't traveled is because of money. It's not because like I'm actually really, really scared to like go there. I would still feel very comfortable, especially because we speak the language.
Right.
If I didn't speak the language, maybe there'd be like an added layer of like, damn, it's going to be hard to kind of get around, you know? And you're right. Like social media doesn't always paint the bright picture. It's kind of like California. Sure, politics are abysmal. I agree. We're overtaxed. It's not a great place to really start a family and not have to struggle with perhaps in other red states, etc. But what I was meaning is on social media you'll see all the bad things of California, and that's what people think California is everywhere.
Homeless everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah. People are like, I can't believe you live in Los Angeles County. Like there's homeless everywhere, and I'm like, bro, you know how many miles I have to travel to see homeless? Now, there's homeless even in my city. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they don't exist, but the problem that you're thinking about is these tent cities, right? And so that's what they think all of California looks like. I'm like, dude, those are very hyper concentrated. And to be honest, there's an easy solution for it. It's just they don't take action, you know?
But the situation is getting better. Did you notice it? In this year, there are less homeless tents than it was in 2023.
Oh, sure. And I'll tell you exactly. No, in that aspect, you're right. Visually, it's getting better.
Visually, right.
But in numbers, it's actually getting worse. That's according to the latest data. But the reason, and I know this firsthand because I have a family relative that unfortunately is going through homelessness, even though they have a home to live in, but it's just drug problems, basically.
Oh wow!
And so there's been times where we go out looking for this person, and what I noticed is that there's signs everywhere that these people have to move. And so when I was talking to the homeless community, I'm like, hey, I see that there's like evictions. Like, do you guys get these all the time? They're like, no, man, it's because the Olympics are coming to LA. So that's what it is. They're trying to clean up LA County to make it seem like we don't have a problem. It's kind of like what happened in San Francisco. Remember with Xi Jinping or whatever, when he came into town, they cleared all the homeless. They're like, you got to get out of here. So in talking to all the homeless in LA County, not all of them, obviously, I didn't talk to every single one, but in talking to a lot of these different campsites or tent cities or tent sites, whatever you want to call them, a lot of them had these eviction notices that they had to leave to other counties. And the reason for it is because of the Olympics.
But Olympics is summer 2026.
I know, but they're starting the process now, my friend.
Oh, they're doing it earlier.
Oh, yeah. This has been happening since at least early this year. So I want to say like a year and a half.
Not the Olympics, World Cup.
One of those, yeah.
And Olympics 2028.
Okay, yeah. The World Cup, I guess. That's what it is.
Bro, so next year, Trump's 80th birthday, America's 250th birthday,
yeah,
World Cup,
yep,
and in 2 years, Olympics.
Olympics, yeah.
All here.
Yeah.
Especially in California.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know what we're doing I don't know how hard California is going to go in celebrating 250 years for America. I think Trump will probably do something out there in DC, but yes, we have a lot of local events, and obviously they're cleaning up the city for that. So if you've noticed, you're right. If you've noticed, a lot of places no longer have, it's because they're taking them out and they're threatening them with incarceration. Like, if you don't leave, we're going to arrest you and we're taking you to jail. And that's where you will remain. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked you 16 months ago when you were the first time sitting in front of me. Let's say you're a president of the U.S. and the president of the U.S. is the most powerful human being on planet Earth. Mm-hmm. You have all these secret services, 3-letter agencies at your disposal. They come to you and say, congratulations, you're the president now. We know all the answers in the world. You ask us, we give you an honest answer. What would be your first question?
Does Israel really control this country?
Okay, let's say
and they'll be like, we can't tell you.
Let's say they affirm.
No, I'm
what
kidding.
do you do?
I'm kidding. That wouldn't be my question, to be honest. I'd eventually get to the end of that question though. It's so nuanced. Question for that. Ooh, that's an interesting one. Honestly, I think it would probably be the alien question.
Really?
I really want to know, like, well, what's up with all these alien stuff? Because here's the thing: is I feel like there's a lot of talk about it, especially this year. And now there's, even Tucker Carlson is having like shows about that. He's having like conversations about it. And he believes that it's not necessarily foreign life forms coming from other planets. He believes that whatever it is, it's either like demonic or spiritual in nature. And there's even some speculation that whatever is coming out, it's coming out of the ocean. So maybe there's like some advanced civilization hiding in the ocean or whatever. So I would probably ask, honestly, that's like the most curious one. I feel like everything else is just kind of like, I'll find out eventually, but the alien stuff would be interesting because I just want to, if, I'm here and you got these guys with black suits and sunglasses on and they're like, we'll answer any question. I'm like, what's up with the alien stuff, man? And I would just want them to be like, yeah, we know for a fact that there is civilizations on every planet and we've kept it from the public. And this is what's really happening. Or they can just be like, it's all fake, dude. Like we're doing it to keep people distracted.
So this is not my original thought. I saw this thought, I want to say, on social media. If aliens were real, God would have told us through the Bible. Does it make sense?
I don't necessarily agree with that. Because I
Bible tells us about demons, spirits, fallen angels.
Right, yeah.
It has nothing.
That's what Tucker Carlson basically says. He thinks that there's a biblical explanation for it. But I also think that, there's scripture that says that there are secrets that you will not know until the day that I come back. There's things that you just won't be told to you or you will not know. So I think things can exist outside within context that, because there's also like the argument of if he can create us, why can't he create other life?
He can. He probably did.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So maybe there's other civilizations.
We're descendants of Adam, but Adam was created in Genesis 2. Male and female were created in Genesis 1. And Cain, after killing Abel, went somewhere to other people.
Then you've got like the Book of Enoch, which is very controversial, right? And there's a lot of debate on whether it's real or it's not real. I've seen Christians say, yes, it is. No, it's not. I think there's a possibility of some of it. I don't know if you've seen like those giant rock structures that are flat on the top, but they look like trees that have been cut off. Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
So supposedly, like they're rock formations, but they're so smooth on top and they have rings inside of them that people believe that those were trees. And so I think, I haven't delved too much into it, and please, guys, do your research, pray about this stuff.
Believe everything Anthony is saying.
Yeah,
please.
no, I'm not trying to say, but when I did dive a little bit into it, I think I saw like a video about it, and it basically said that these were huge trees where the angels would sit and oversee humanity. That this is where, I think they were called like seers or something like that, like watchers. Specific angels, the watchers. And that when the big flood came, there were giants that were roaming the earth, and that God sent the angels to cut off those trees so that the giants wouldn't be able to climb them to escape the flood.
Oh, interesting theory. Okay.
Right, yeah. And so that's why it looks like they've all been cut off, right? And there was only so many of them.
Yeah, in Utah, I want to say.
Yeah, I think there's a few of them in the United States. I don't know exactly, maybe Arizona even, stuff like that, which is interesting. And here's the thing is, I don't think it's satanic or sinful to look at those videos and then be like, like maybe that could be a scenario, but what does that have to do with me being a good person? What does that have to be with me being good to my neighbor or loving that neighbor, right? So it's kind of like there's a lot of speculation, and you can believe aliens are real or not real, and it wouldn't really tamper with your faith and your belief in Christ, because it's like, well, sure, there's a lot of things that maybe we don't know about, but one day it will be revealed to us.
But you see, your life can change if you, let's say, you find out and you get an evidence that, let's say, we have never ever been to the moon. So you live with this premise that we've been to the moon 5 or 6 times. So the base of your life is a lie. Or let's say they provide you an evidence. it's not a globe, right? It's something. Here are the verses in the Bible. It says it's stationary. That the sun and the moon, they are circling around the earth. Not earth is circling. So you're like, oh, so I've been lied to right from my childhood.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is, and this is be controversial, is I actually believe that. So I don't believe,
I do too.
I don't believe in a vast universe. I don't believe in planets.
Me too.
I believe in a firmament. I believe Earth is it. I also do believe that the sun and the moon are within our atmosphere, not billions of miles away.
93 billion miles.
Yeah, exactly. And what's interesting is that they say, and this is where I was just like, okay, man, this is kind of weird. If you look, do you know how fast NASA says that we are traveling around the sun?
Oh, bro. We're with the sun, with the whole system traveling for 14.8 billion years
According
since
to
the
that,
very
yeah.
beginning,
Yeah.
through space, non-stop.
Right. Yeah. Okay, but specifically that. Do you know how fast?
Tell me.
You won't believe it.
I know it's a ridiculous number.
NASA says that the Earth travels around the sun at 66,600
Oh,
miles
yeah,
per
yeah,
hour.
yeah. 666.
666, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just like, well, that's kind of odd, right? Et cetera. And I'm sure there's people Googling that, and they're probably going to find that it's actually closer to like 66,000.5. They're like, oh, that's not really 60, whatever. And then I've even seen videos that NASA, I don't know if you heard about this, but NASA is actually like it's similar to an old Hebrew word, which means to deceive.
Deceive.
Yeah. Right. Oh, so you're in those. But here's the thing is that I'm not trying to insinuate anything. And here's the thing is, if I believe this, right, am I going to hell for it?
No.
No, of course not. And so this is why I tell people that want to sit and argue, are you stupid? Do you really believe it? I'm like, well, my brother and sister in Christ, is it unbiblical to believe this? Am I going against God by maybe believing something different? Also, who cares? Like, if there was undeniable proof, like if tomorrow, like you just said, if there was, so I'm a firmament believer. I don't believe in all this stuff. I'm open to the idea that I could be wrong.
Me too. 100%.
I'm very open. I don't think that like, 100%. All I'm saying is I've seen enough evidence to believe what I believe. That I think that the evidence supports me more, even biblically, than
Genesis 1.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. And so there could be a scientific explanation for things. That's fine, etc. I'm open to the idea that there's a gagillion universes out there. Sure. Why can't I believe that?
Yeah.
Because I believe in God. I don't believe in a God that's relegated to a firmament. I believe in a God that can create that if he wants to, right? And so that's why I also find it sometimes stupid. I'm like, why am I debating this random nobody on a vast? And so that's why I don't make my opinions known too much on these subjects, because I know that it creates. I've had Christians say like, man, bro, I thought you were Christian, but you're obviously into some occult stuff. And I'm like,
Cold.
yeah, oh yeah, for sure, bro. Yeah. Like, wow, you believe, well, wow, I need to unfollow you because you're a part of some Masonic whatever.
Guys, listen. Sun is 93.5, I want to say, miles away from Earth, right? 2 questions. How do they know it? To the T, 93.5, not 93.4, not 92.5, right? And they say that they know the temperature of the sun. How did they measure it? How do we know what's inside the core of Earth? How?
Yeah.
Did they dig enough?
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Here's the thing is, there's nothing wrong with asking those questions.
Right.
People want you to believe that it's wrong to question.
Right.
Why? Because we've been told that the point of authority is not us, because we're stupid. The point of authority are educated people, people that went to school for all this,
Yes.
people that read more books than you
Yes.
are the point of authority. And what's unique about that is now it's kind of flipped upside down through the pandemic. The people that we trusted, that we thought knew everything, that read all the books and went to school for 12, 20 years and got their doctorates, turns out they got it wrong, right? And so it's really interesting. And so that is something that changed with my mentality is I used to have so much trust in these appointed authorities. And I think, maybe you felt this way before. Growing up, when you looked at adults and you looked at these people in positions of power, you're like, man, they know everything. They know there's nothing they don't know. And as you grow older, you've just come to the realization like, wait a minute, I've just believed these things to be true. What was it like a couple years ago? They actually ended up finding out that Pluto is no longer a planet.
Right.
But we grew up
Right.
with, hey, there's 9
planets.
planets. Yeah, exactly. And we always believe like, oh yeah, Pluto. And then I don't know if you ever like had it in your home country, the Magic School Bus.
No.
Have you heard of the show, The
No.
Magic School Bus? No. So the Magic School Bus was a publicly funded, like it's through PBS, public broadcasting station. It was a cartoon for kids, and the whole idea of it is it was a teacher, and she had a magic school bus, and so she would have all these classmates, and they would do crazy stuff because the school bus was magical. They would travel to planets. They would go to different places. They were able to travel really fast. It was education for educational purposes. And so they would teach you how cold Pluto was because the bus would go out there, etc. Then they would go inside your system and they're like, oh, where are we? And one of the students would be like, well, because there's white blood cells here. And so like the whole thing is you're learning because it's a cartoon, right? And I just remember that that's what we were taught, right? We were taught 9 planets. And so when I think of Pluto, I think of the Magic School Bus. I'm like, but how is that not real if the Magic School Bus made a TV show about it or whatever? We were taught as kids, yeah.
They knew the temperature on Pluto.
They knew the temperature on Pluto.
Whew.
Exactly, yeah. And so, but then it came out, oh, actually, it's not. It's not a planet. And you asked the question, how would you feel growing up knowing that all this was true? But to an extent, that's actually what aging is. What you believe to be true as a kid, everything you've been taught, you start questioning. Mm-hmm. And that's what being an adult is. You start questioning things. That's what being a responsible adult is you start questioning everything. You start questioning doctors. You start questioning your doctor. It could be the doctor that you've been going to since you were a kid. Man, I used to go to this doctor when I was 12, 13, whatever, 18, 19. And now I question these people. And now I'm doing my own research. And now, and on the flip side, I do think that sometimes it could be dangerous. Some people say, oh, I don't need to take, my cancer medication. I can just go drink a tea because I watched this TikTok video. And I'm like, no, dude, maybe you should stick to the medication, whatever.
But then you figure out that a lot of cancer patients die because of chemotherapy.
Because of the chemotherapy, correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I'm not saying that his statement is correct, by the way. Do your research, talk to your doctor. I'm not saying that what we're saying here is correct, but what I'm getting to is that's what growing up is, right? Is you question authority. And now, in a sense, especially as males, we want to be that authority because we want, my wife tells me, I don't trust this, but I trust you. And it's a good feeling because you're like, man, I'm a man. And really, it's a responsibility. It's not about ego, right? It shouldn't be about like, oh, I know everything. I know more than that doctor. It's just you care enough about yourself and you have enough respect for yourself and your livelihood that you don't just trust. And going back to that, however, there's a biblical point. You say, oh, maybe your whole worldview might be shattered because of this. But then what does Scripture says? It says in Spanish, it's maldito el hombre que cree en el hombre o que confía en el hombre, which is, is cursed is the man who puts his trust on another man. And, obviously there's context to it. It's the beginning of Psalms, I believe, that speaks of this, or Proverbs. I forget. I apologize. But basically, the way I understood it is trust but verify. You can be told something. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to believe it. And cursed are you who just believes it without questioning.
But bro, in 50s to 60s to 70s, they were treating schizophrenia with lobotomy. One.
Yeah.
They were treating pregnant women so they don't feel nausea with the medicine.
Okay.
That ended up with what? Babies being born with
no limbs.
Or something was wrong with the limbs, right? There was another medicine for pregnant women where they were told totally safe and effective.
Yeah.
Dead babies, stillborns. So back then medicine was not right.
Correct.
But now we are right?
We're more right, but I still think we have obviously a long way to go.
Not having a symptom is one of the symptoms.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah. I know. It was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, so the science isn't settled.
No.
And everybody that says the science is settled, is just lying. Guys and gals, please follow Anthony Cabassa on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube channel. You're going to resume your podcast.
Yes, sir.
All the viable information is, I want to say, on Instagram. When there were fires, LA fires, when there were riots, I've been following you. So guys, Anthony Cabassa, whether you live in California or you don't live in California, please follow. God bless you. Thank you for coming. And Jesus Christ is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords.
Amen. Forever and always. Thank you, Brother Friday.